Good evening, gamers across the globe. That is right. Welcome to PM in the PM. Pong and Mav. That's right. We're back. It is April the 7th, 2022. Thank you all for showing up and being here. Look, we had to take some time off. Week. It felt like 3 weeks, actually. I was trying to think back. I'm like, did we do the show last week? And I'm like, no, that's the week we took off because of me. That's right. I got real life, had to pay the bills. I'm sorry, but we are back this week. We got a lot to jump into here, even though some people might say the news is a little slow. But you know, here we always are going to find a reason to talk about this industry that we love. So before, of course, I am Pong Soul for you that don't know. Maybe new people are showing up. I'm, of course, one of your co-hosts. I'm going to get to my other co-host, the king of the fun speculation kingdom here in a second. But as you can all see, we are having one of those evenings where somebody has joined us. And this distinguished gentleman that you see here, if you don't recognize him, I don't blame you. If you don't recognize his voice, I don't blame you either. This man used to be a prominent member of this community. This man used to be in a lot of different shows. He used to show up all the time. He used to talk, all the good talk, bring all of his knowledge. But this is one of the most talented men I know. And those talents have allowed him to go ahead and leave this dystopian kind of place behind in this community, right? And move on to better and greener pastures. So for those of you that don't recognize him, let me give you a little background, okay? This man, he's an actor, okay? This man is a model. He's a writer. He is a music video producer. He is an artiste. He is a professor. He is an animator. He's an actual, to honest to goodness, gaming dev. He owns the rights to a video game that right now has been lost and forgotten, called Abandoned, because Blue Box dared take the name away from him without his permission. And that's a true story. He does actually own Abandoned.
Yeah. What an award.
This man, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
This man has worked on commercials that you have seen during the Super Bowl. This man, when Mav and I asked him if he could come on, Mav actually asked him tonight, but I brought up the idea because of some of the topics we're talking about tonight. I thought it'd be great to have him on here. This man, when Mav hit him up, he had his schedule tonight included going to a party over at the Affleck Duck's house, okay, where he was going to rub elbows with the Geico Gecko, Mr. Mayhem, and so many other commercial celebrities, right? But he cleared all that off the table. He told the Affleck Duck, no way. And 3-Bet, you got to let us know if there is actually a name for him. But he cleared that off his schedule and said, no, I'm coming on PM the PM. And we're going only one day, I know for a fact, all of us who know this man are going to see him accepting awards someday for some of the work he does. That's how talented this gentleman is. And not only that, I'm proud to call him my friend, my brother, as well as Mav is. And he is part of my extended family. So chat, thumbs up, please. And if you're listening to this at a later date, stop what you're doing and let out a small applause wherever you're at. It doesn't matter. This guy deserves it. Everybody, welcome in 3-bit to PM in the PM 3-bit. Welcome, sir. Good to have you here, brother. How the heck are you? What you been up to? Can you spill any beans, any industry secrets for us right now? This is your time. I'll give you the floor if you just want to talk about all the games you're working on. But how the heck are you?
I'm good. That's probably the best introduction I've ever
He's
got.
been working at it.
Wow.
Yeah, your intro is longer than Pong's outro.
There's a lot to talk about with this guy.
It's a lot of titles, man. You're like those guys that's got a lot of hats.
No, I appreciate it. For those who don't know, I'm an animator in the industry. I animate on several commercials right now, and have a history in game development as well. And I just love being in the community, talking games when I can. And these guys know me. I've been on probably hundreds of shows with them, and lately not as much, just because I've been so busy. But I wanted to clear some time and hang out with you guys just to talk games and stuff that's going on. So hello everybody in the chat, and let's get it going.
Hey, we appreciate that, brother. No, really, seriously, thank you for joining us tonight again. We do have some topics where I thought it'd be interesting to get your thoughts on. You always have great insight, especially with all of your experience. So thought it'd be cool to bring you in here, and I was just glad that you were available and able to do this for sure, man. Because I didn't know late notice. But anyways, on to my co-host again, the king of the fun speculation kingdom, the man who does it all, with a lot of help from Caitlin. Don't let anybody fool you. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't make this.
Anyways, Mav, brother, week off. Like I said, for me, it felt like 3 weeks since we've actually done this, man. I can't believe it. But how have you been outside of being busy yourself in real life, which is the norm these days, it seems like, as we come out of this pandemic? Have you been able to play anything? I know, we kind of talk in the background and you just are basically hitting the bed and getting up and working nonstop, but anything of interest happening in your world, sir? And just let the people know how you've been, man.
Been doing good. Been getting still busy, but it's getting better, I think, as I see the horizon to where I can, start to work more of a normal schedule again. So looking forward to that. But yeah, man, it's been awesome, dude. I haven't played a whole lot. I tried to boot up MLB The Show last night, and I started for 2 minutes, and I was like, okay, I can't do this right now. The night before that, I saw you and Steele were playing Tiny Tina's. I wanted to dive in. I was like, I just can't. But that's the game I have played the most recently is Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. I am super into that game, loving it. It's a blast. It's highly it's one of those games. It's like, okay, it doesn't need to be more than it is. They just made a game that's like silly, over the top, Borderlands, pure fun. And I don't see a lot of people complaining about that. It is what it is, and the people are enjoying it, and I love it for that. I kind of miss that aspect of games where a lot of games just come out and they kind of fit perfectly in that genre, and it just works great. The game plays well. It's got some bugs here and there, but overall, nothing that's gonna hinder our fun at all. And just go and play and have a blast. It's been really refreshing. And the game is freaking hilarious, dude. When we're playing together, just bust out laughing. 3-bit, last time we talked to 3-bit was actually there. It was the day of the game's launch, and he was considering joining us. And then he joined in the party, and he's like, "Hey, I can't figure out how to buy it." And then he fell asleep, which is typical 3-bit. As a game dev, he still doesn't know how the purchasing function works for a game. He's still got to figure that aspect out. But I want to give a shout out to Drawn TJ as well. Thank you for this super chats. Dude already hit us with 3 super chats, so I want to get caught up on those real quick, dude. I hit us with a $2 super chat, man. He says, "Hey guys, hope you have a fire show." Me too. I hope we have a fire show. I'm sure it's gonna be a fire show. He also hits us with another $2 super chat. Says, "Do you guys think we see State of Decay 3 footage? When? Maybe soon?
When?
E3 time, or what formerly known as E3 time?"
Next year. Short
maybe.
Answer, next year. I think next year.
Maybe another
I don't
trailer,
think this year.
CG trailer. Hint? No.
I think we get footage next year.
Okay.
I think they're going to hold off. They're going to go underground, especially with the article coming, all those articles coming out and all that kind of stuff. I think they're really going to get down to business now, and I think we see it next year. I think they'll be ready to show us something then.
Fair enough.
That's my thought.
Yeah, and they are working. That's an Unreal Engine game, also, I believe, right? They brought in that other team just to
Unreal
help with
5,
that.
baby.
Yeah, Unreal 5.
John TJ also with a $5 super chat. Thank you again. John TJ says, "Hi 3-Bit, you sound like an amazing person. Fire panel tonight. Nice to meet you, 3-Bit." Yeah, 3-Bit is amazing. He's been on panel member at Xbox Ultimate Podcast since pretty much the first times we've went live. As a live
he used to have his own show. He used to be on Xbox Factor Podcast. I mean, this guy used to be around the block.
Yeah,
again, but he's flown the coop.
He used to be a whore. Now he's
flown the coop. He's now living in the towers, looking down amongst all of us. That's what he's doing now.
Pretty much.
That's where he's at. Yeah. So he came down tonight and graced us.
Yeah. I've known a 3-Bit pretty much close to since I started podcasting. Right around then. Both of these guys, right around the start. It's been absolutely awesome.
I think we started around the same time, maybe.
We were on Mad's Next Gen Squad podcast together when he was running that show.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and that's how we met each other. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, hey, I wanted to tell you about something that happened last night. It's kind of weird, man. I don't know how to feel about it.
Oh, you're gonna tell the dream you had about me?
Yeah, I started to tell it to you in the DMs earlier in our DMs, and I didn't even tell Kate about this. Because I've been out. So she's gonna be
Caitlin, you better be prepared for this. Yeah, you better be ready.
So I was thinking about PM in the PM like last night or whatever.
This better not be erotic.
It's not erotic. It scared me. It scared me, right?
Oh boy.
So I was thinking about PM in the PM.
Caitlin's already getting ready
and trying to think about what are we going to talk about and all this stuff. What's going on with that? Or I hope we're going to be able to have the show today. And so Pong was on my mind, and then I fell asleep. So with Pong on my mind, falling asleep, it led to some interesting things. So. Here's what happened, okay? And I'm trying to remember this as clearly because you know how dreams are. Like, you're trying to remember 100%, but I know the basics. So, you were supposed to meet me, in person, real life, because our show, for some reason, was in, person, real life thing happening, right? And you were on the way, but, I didn't hear from you. You were late or whatever. I'm like, oh, man, I hope he's okay, all right? I hope he's okay. And then it turns out, we find out that Pong Soul is on the run from the police. And that's what it said. It actually said Pong Soul. That's what your name was.
Was Caitlin playing Grand Theft Auto when you fell asleep?
No, I think me and Kate were in the street or something, just waiting somewhere for Pong to show up. And then so you show up and you get out of your car or whatever, and you're like, "Hey man, I can't make it to the show. I'm sorry." And there's helicopters and police cars going and stuff.
Sounds like a Grand Theft Auto dream.
And they wanted, in this broadcast, they wanted you for a hit and run, right? Where you ran over. You didn't run over somebody. You got in a car.
Just to clarify, anybody jumping into the chat in the stream right now, this is a dream.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is not a story that Matt's telling about me.
So you got in a car accident and you accidentally killed the person that was in the other car, but it's actually their fault, right? But I knew this somehow without anybody telling me. I just knew it. I don't know why. But anyway, the broadcast was trying to portray you're a wanted man because I guess the person in the other car was a VIP, right? So they said it was a big time politician or FBI person or something. So they sent the squad after you, and you're on the run, and you're like, "Mav, I'm not gonna make it to the show." And then you get out, and all these cops are coming at you. I'm gonna make my last stand. And you whip out.
This is completely Grand Theft Auto. Thank you, Caitlin. She was playing it the other night.
You whip out a P90.
This is very detailed for a dream you claim that you don't remember much about.
It was. I remember the gun because the gun was not a normal everyday person gun. It was from a video game gun, right? So you whip out a P90, and you just start firing away, and then you just get obliterated by 100,000 cops.
Was it in slow motion?
I was like. Pong!
Was it bullet time?
Yeah.
Which we're going to be talking about here shortly.
And then I woke up and I was like, what the fuck? And so I checked my phone, I was like, okay, this is Pong's alive. Okay, we're good. PM in the PM is still on.
Okay.
So we can get to episode 20.
That's all I cared about. All right, we can still have our show. Okay, no, I'm
just
kidding.
so everybody knows, I am currently doing this show from an undisclosed location. Oh,
it was
my God.
it was one of those random things, man. Don't fall asleep
Okay.
thinking about your friends.
That's one heck of a story.
Yeah,
That's
I guess
one
Kate
way to
was
start.
playing it in the background, so it was just
Yeah, it all fits in.
That's funny.
You obviously combined the two lives together, Grand Theft
she
Auto
was
and
playing
Real World.
GTA, I think.
Yeah, she said in the chat she was. She was playing when you fell asleep. So
Okay. That makes sense.
Okay.
That's adding up now, even more.
Okay.
You know.
That's funny.
That's it, everybody. That's episode 20
Where do we go
of
from
PM
here?
to PM. Yeah. 3-bit. Thanks for coming on with all your input.
Yeah,
It's been
no
great,
problem.
sir.
All right, you guys can follow me.
Wow. Okay. Well, look, folks, I'm not going to have any crazy dreams because I don't dream about my co-hosts at any time in any way, shape, or form. So I don't have any dreams to go by. But I've had a great week. Like Mav was talking about, rolled credits. Steele and I actually rolled credits on Tiny Tina's Wonderlands on Tuesday night. Absolutely freaking fantastic game. Again, I've been pumping this on all the shows, but it is worth every penny. If you are a Borderlands fan, this is simply and I think the overwhelming opinion that I've seen of people who do enjoy Borderlands is that this game right here is the best that they've played since 2. That's what I'm seeing most people, and I put it right next to 2, and 2 is one of my all-time favorites. If you had to lock me down to a top 15, top 20 game list, Borderlands 2 would be somewhere in there. And I put Tiny Tina's right up there with it, side by side. This is a fantastic game. I've rolled credits so I could actually give a review of this game, not just my impressions. If I had to give it a score, I would definitely be in a 9 range, for sure. This game is just really good. They leaned into everything. Gearbox went back to what made Borderlands 2 so great. The writing is on point. The acting is off the charts good. And they just leaned into what they do best. And they really got creative with the spells and with the guns. I know, some reviewers out there said, the guns are too much like you see in Borderlands 2, 3, whatever. It's not. It's different. And the effects are different. And really unique stuff. And the combination of spells and weapons really lends itself to the entire feel of this game, that you're in a D&D world. But again, hilarious, like Mav said, laugh out loud, funny stuff. Even the corny lines get you to chuckle just because they're so bad, but they're still good, right? They're just still funny on some level. It's just amazing, man. Look, I'll give you an example. Steele and I both now have a legendary spell that shoots out a marshmallow. Like Steele first got it first, and I had to farm for it, but I eventually got it. But Steele shot that thing out, and I'm like, is that a freaking marshmallow on the ground? And Steele's like, brother, I think it is. And I said, what is that thing? Well, we figured out that sucker blows up, does massive damage, and then leaves 2 other marshmallows, which will heal you. It's insane, man. I just love this game from start to finish. Yeah. The end game stuff is really, really good, really creative. They've got these chaos dungeons that you can go into with a really unique system that makes it different every time that you go in, and you got to play for these crystals, and you can use the crystals to buy pretty much anything you want from these statues. Of course, it's all random loot, but you can kind of choose if you want assault rifles. It'll shoot out a bunch of assault rifles. Anyways, you're playing for all these crystals to go ahead and do that. Plus you get chaos levels. They've got this whole kind of mechanic in there where you can make the levels even harder than what they normally would be, which ups your rewards, but obviously the risks are involved. There's so much to the end game, and it's actually really, really fun. So again, Tiny Tina's Wonderlands is what I've been cranking out on. Of course, Genghis Pong is still here and still trying to dominate in Crusader Kings 3. I put that aside more so this week because I did want to finish up Tiny Tina's Wonderlands with Steel. So we kind of did that stuff. But Crusader Kings 3 is just getting better and better, man. The more I play it, the more I learn it. So that's what I've been rocking out on. Obviously, Chinatown Detective is coming out. It's launched today.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to jumping into that. I'm actually, honestly, gamer confession, I am looking at possibly getting Godfall as well for the $30 sale price.
I know Steel's
really
like hyped about that, right? He
yeah,
likes the game a lot.
Steel played it. He likes it. He said it was great. He says it's not like anything mind blowing,
Right.
but for $30, you get everything. It's on sale for a limited time. Normally it's $40, but on Xbox, you get it for $30. I'm considering that. I really, really am. And of course, Chrono Cross also comes out this week, which I think I'm going to hold off on and go back to a later date, but great to see another JRPG come out. And then otherwise, a little PSA for everybody out there. If you have been holding off on jumping into Cyberpunk, get online right now. I don't care if you're watching us live right now. I think some of the sales, I think almost all the sales are ending today at midnight. But right now, you can go buy Cyberpunk 2077 for $5 at most retailers. Okay. Tons of retailers have it on sale. That is a steal in a freaking half. I don't care if you buy it to play when there's no other games to play and it just sits on your shelf for $5. And if you got current gen, you get the free current gen update to it. Look, go get it. $5 is such a freaking ridiculous steal for that game. Even if you wind up not liking it at the end of the day, it's $5. Okay. Just go do it, please. But that's a special sale going on that I saw today.
Yeah,
ridiculous. Crazy. It is. It's absolutely insane. So other than that, been a great week. But before we jump in to these freaking fantastic topics, look at all these people in our chat already. Everybody's showing up for us on PM and the PM. I love you all. Nothing but respect. Going to give some shout outs here. Artie M was the first to show up in here. Artie, always awesome to see you. Lord Master Jasper. That's right. Lord Master Jasper, who has his channel up and rocking and rolling. I saw he's got a new little intro that he did. Absolutely hilarious. By the way, Jasper loved it. Lore Master Jasper in the house. Andrew Cullinane, of course, is here. Game Pass Dad, Mr. Pickle himself. Go
Pickle
check
Papa.
out his Pickle Papa. Go check out his content. Bro, the drive-through video was absolutely hilarious. I caught that today on my feed while I was scrolling at work. Dude, just keep doing you, man. It's awesome. Game Pass Dad is a great dude. Nix, of course, brother, great to see you. Of course, the Rocket Warrior Gamecast, otherwise known as Trinity, is in the house. Sis, great to see you. Thank you for stopping in here and saying hi. Tony Grasso, always here. Good to see you. Anthony Chipmunk, brother, great to see you, sir. Who else we got in here right now? We've got anybody else? Stuffed Sean. Of course, it's very, very early in the morning where he is. It's already 12:30 going on 1 o'clock in the morning for Stuff Sean. Thank you for being here, sir. Drawn TJ, of course, we already showed the appreciation to you. Always great to see you, sir. And thank you.
He actually
for
hit
those
us
super
with
chats.
another super chat as well.
Did he? Go ahead.
Yeah, he said for $5 super chat, Drawn TJ, appreciate it, man. He says we need to play together on community game night sometime. Heck yeah, like as the time allows, I will be doing more of that stuff. Also, like we used to have community nights all the time, like on early Xbox
Friday.
Ultimate days. Every Friday night we'd play, but I've been crashing usually like right after the shows lately. So, but like I said, hopefully we can start to have as summer goes, especially after my daughter gets out of school. That'll help too, and then maybe I can shuffle some things around with work and also be able to have some more late nights and stuff. That's when I like to really have some fun, you know. But,
those are great times. Again, it is what it is, but yeah, we got to get back to having some of those community game nights at some point because they were a blast. So UK Lad, thank you so much for being here, sir. Always great to see you. ATL brother, great to see you. Who else we got in here? Chris Jones, of course. Let's go see Unit. He loves my Genghis Pong. Donnie Skills in the house. Good to see you as well. Raid Zafar, awesome to see you. It's Timmy is in here. Let's go, Timmy. Great to see you, brother. General Spartan 27. Thank you for showing up, my friend. Look, gentlemen, this week has been interesting. This week has been very interesting. We've had some big news. Mav, you got any particular thing you want to start with it?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of like these games that were announced. So you mean like
Should we go?
maybe-
Should we go? The golden age of gaming is upon us. Something that we've been talking about nonstop since basically we started doing podcasting.
Yeah.
at this
One of the
point,
first
Mav.
videos I did on my channel was about like I mentioned the golden age of gaming and stuff. Like we're entering into that, and
Yep.
you know, Pong's been saying that since I've met him and stuff. And Steele's also been on this, our good buddy, and like it's starting to catch on with other people in the community because you've been pushing it harder than anybody. Right.
Play what you love, love what you play.
Yeah,
I
that's
caught
right.
myself saying
Gaming.
that, but I was like, where did that come from?
Yeah.
I was like,
And you know, I think it's starting to catch on with other people. In fact, there was like somebody I saw you share and comment on it. Somebody had even written something long
Yes.
aspect about golden age
Yeah.
of gaming and stuff. And I think people are
Yep.
starting to really see this. And you know, things like with that comes with all the investment, you know, that is
Yep.
going into gaming, right? It's a good thing because even though, yeah, they're all trying to sell shit to us, right? Like obviously that's what it's a business. If there's more investment and there's more studios getting started up, there's more of everything, then that's going to lead to more projects getting kicked off. And then because of that, sometimes you get things you've been hoping for a long time. So
Yeah.
for instance, maybe, you know, Max Payne remakes that were just announced. You want to dive into those, Pong?
Funny you would say so. Yeah. So this week, look, we've already had Splinter Cell renounced. We've got Knights of the Old Republic being remade. The list goes on. And this is what Mav and I talk about here when we talk about the golden age of gaming. We all love brand new IP, right?
Yeah.
We do. Of
Mhm.
course. Again, Starfield this year, brand new IP from one of the biggest creatives around, and Todd Howard and his A team over at Bethesda. We love that new IP, but there's also that nostalgia factor that goes into play. That's why backwards compatibility is so prominent, especially with the way that Microsoft and Xbox are treating it. But for those of us, the older gamers who've been around through generations of games, there are certain games that disappear at times. And we wish they could come back. Splinter Cell was a huge one for Mav and myself, and even 3-Bit here, even though he couldn't talk about it much at the time because he was working at Ubi that time. But there's those games that we all wish we could see come back. And even some surprises that we never thought might come back again that kind of disappear. But when you get into a golden age like we're currently coming into here with this generation, with the industry absolutely exploding everywhere, money being thrown around, all these teams being created, acquisitions, everything that goes into that right now, what it does allow for is for developers to go back and revisit fan favorites that maybe just didn't cut the mustard when they were looking at bottom lines during the last generation. Now their bottom lines are so healthy that they can go back and revisit these old libraries. We heard Phil talk about his excitement that once the Activision Blizzard deal goes through, that back catalog is now open for him to go find those games that he wants to bring back that have been gone for, in some cases, almost 20 years when you go back and look at Relic or Hexen, excuse me, not Relic, Hexen. So that's what this kind of golden age creates. It's not just a brand new IP. It's not the continuation of big franchises that we love. It's not just the technology that goes into all that kind of stuff. It's not all that. It's not just all of that. It also includes going back and looking at these older games. This week, we kind of had a slew of announcements, starting with Devolver Digital coming out and saying that they are doing Return to Monkey Island.
Yeah.
And this is going to pick right up where Monkey Island 2 LeChuck's Revenge left off. Now, for those of you not old enough to remember, and maybe you saw this announcement and didn't think anything of it, Monkey Island is an old LucasArts special, an old Tim Schafer special. And I don't care how new you are to gaming, I'm sure you've heard of Tim Schafer. Okay, Monkey Island is one of those Tim Schafer specials, heavily narrative driven, amazing story, amazing adventure while you're in that world. And Monkey Island was a fan favorite of Lucas back in the day. And so there all of a sudden, out of the blue, Devolver Digital walks in and says, guess what? We're doing another one. That is simply fantastic. And guess what? The Monkey Islands that were on Xbox 360, those are backwards compatible. So if you want to go learn about Monkey Island, Go check those out. They're available. You can find them. They're not expensive either. So Monkey Island is a big one. 3-bit Mav, did you guys ever play Monkey Islands at all?
Yeah, I actually played Monkey Island.
Okay.
I remember what got me into it was seeing G4 talk about it a long time ago. And then they were praising Tim Schafer's work. And then I went to go check it out. And yeah, it's funny. It's very smart.
Yes.
I usually don't play those type of games, but that was one I did decide to eventually check out. And I could see why people liked it. Even to this day. I know it's like, how old is it now? It's like 20 years.
Monkey Island
1990.
1990 was the first Monkey Island. So 32 years ago is when it started. Yeah. LucasArts, man. Yep.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yep. And they're LucasArts has handled it. Telltale Games has handled it before. Great history. There's a ton of different Monkey Islands out there. Actually, if you look at the history, there's a lot more than you think of. Again, a couple of them are on 360 backwards compatible. But they're going back. Ron Gilbert is doing it. And again, so you know the writing is going to be freaking good. And Terrible Toy Box is the developers of this. And it's underneath Devolver Digital. And we know Devolver Digital puts their resources into it. Mav, did you ever have a chance to play Monkey Islands at all?
In like the mid 90s, I played it on PC.
Yep.
And
that's where most people experienced it.
Yeah, it came out early 90s, but I didn't have the PC good enough like when it launched. And it's one of those games I picked up like I think pretty cheap, like randomly at one point, and just like, what's this? Oh, I heard about good things about this game. You know, I brought it home, checked it out, loaded in. It was pretty cool. I don't have any like strong memories of it, just because I played through it and then I was kind of done with it. I was like really into RTS games back then, like into Command and Conquer. So I've spent most of my time on Command and Conquer, or and then I moved it from RTS into like Neverwinter Nights on PC and like the PC RPGs and stuff like that. So Monkey Island was that like offshoot thing for me. You know what I mean? But it was really cool. I remember thinking like, oh, that was a good game, you know. But then at that point, it's just kind of done with it. But it's cool, man, because I know there's like a lot of adventure game fans out there, big time. You know, I can't hear you, Pong. I think your mic's.
Yeah. I clicked it by accident. I should have expanded a little bit too. Ron Gilbert is the original writer on the first two. Okay, that's why I'm excited about it. He also did Maniac Mansion, which a lot of people know from LucasArts as well. Look, dude's incredible. To have the original writer coming back. Of course, Tim Schafer had a ton of input as well. We know that, but to have one of the main brains behind Monkey Island on board and doing this one means a ton to those of us that are fans of this series. So personally, I'm excited. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I should expand it for people who don't know who Ron Gilbert is.
I mean, I know it's like a big time classic. Another like Grim Fandango is another one of like Tim Schafer's games, and Full Throttle, and you know, he has all these classic adventure games, right? And is that his first? And it might have been his first, Monkey Island.
Yeah. Monkey Island would have been one of his. I'm trying to think if there was one before that, but yeah, it would have been close to one of his first ones, if not the first. Yes.
You know, and people that don't know, Tim Schafer is Double Fine, right? He behind Psychonauts, Brutal Legend. Those other games I just mentioned, Broken Age, other games that came out in the 360 era and Xbox Live Arcade, like Costume
Quest. One of those gaming legends, like in my eyes, like you see like Hideo Kojima, he's a gaming legend in his own right, and I think Tim Schafer is definitely one of those.
It's amazing how many of those legends actually work at Xbox now, right? Yes. Like Todd Howard, Tim Schafer,
Todd Howard,
you know,
yeah, he's up there.
You have a lot of the guys at id are still there, you know, a lot of I mean, there's big time talent. So the guys in Exile, right? I mean, date back to the Interplay days of the dawn of like Western RPGs, you know. Obsidian, same thing, is in Exile. Like, I mean, you're talking about
the founders of first-person shooters,
Western RPGs and first-person shooters and adventure games, and all of these things are.
Yeah, we got Daryl Gallagher. I mean, the list goes on and on, right? All the Obsidian guys. look, it's incredible what they've done to collect that much talent. And we've talked about that in the past too, man. We've gone on and on about that as well. That when you sit back and you really think about it, and they keep gathering more. Like the recent hires, people don't pay attention to the hires because it's not exciting, right? But Mav and I and people like 3-Bit and Psycho, Knots, shout out to you, brother, in the chat. I see you. You know, we do care about that stuff. And some of the hires are like, okay, well, that's cool. Looks like they got a lot of experience. But then there are some hires that we've been seeing from Obsidian and Exile, Bethesda, that legit are like some of the best creatives in the industry that may not be known, right? They've been writers, but you know, Obsidian hired one of the writers who worked on the original Dragon Age and Mass Effect at one point. We're talking about the dude who wrote a lot of the story for Dragon Age and Mass Effect, had a lot of input on those. Not you know, there wasn't one main, I mean, there was some main guys, but again, to have one of those types of people that have been through that and made those kind of great games, showing up at a studio that's already filled with some of the best writers in the industry, again, it's an embarrassment of riches at this point for Xbox and what they're doing right now, for sure. Yeah, and that's why we're all so excited about it.
Yeah, the guy that so the Days Gone dev. What was his name?
Jeff Ross.
Jeff Ross, and he just joined on to which team?
Crystal Dynamics.
Crystal Dynamics, who's working on Perfect Dark. We don't know if he's working on Perfect Dark.
His the way that he spoke, he is definitely working on the Tomb Raider game, which we were just about to talk about next. Okay. Yep. No, that he found a home, which I'm happy. Again, he's outspoken, had a lot to say about what happened at Days Gone and over at Sony. You know, sometimes in an industry like this, that can not be good. So I was happy to see him get a job with Crystal Dynamics, and he's going to a great franchise if it truly is the Tomb Raider franchise, which is what I was going to bring up next.
Rebooted again.
During the Unreal Engine 5 showcase, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. Crystal Dynamics showed up at that show and said, hey, we're switching development over to Unreal Engine 5, which is kind of a shock. They have a great engine. 3-Bit, what's the name of that engine, or Mav?
Foundation
engine. Thank you.
Foundation,
yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know.
Foundation
leave
engine.
Leave it to the dev.
Yes. But the Foundation engine, which we know can do, again, go back and play any of the Tomb Raider remakes, okay? They still hold up now. You play them on current gen, especially Shadow of the Tomb Raider, it's freaking gorgeous, okay? There's no question about it. So for them to abandon that engine says a couple things, which maybe we'll get into at some point here if we got some extra time. But they showed up and they said, by the way, yeah, we're switching over to Unreal Engine 5, but we're also here to announce for the first time we are working on a new Tomb Raider game. Wow. Okay. So everybody can say, well, I mean, we did have Tomb Raiders last gen. Yeah, you're right. We did have Tomb Raiders last gen, but Crystal Dynamics is doing this one. The last one we got was from Eidos Montreal, Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Excellent game. But now we've got the original devs coming back to it. Crystal Dynamics is going back to their franchise once again, putting it into Unreal Engine 5, which again, we'll talk about it a little bit, but from that showcase has some incredible potential, and 3-Bit's going to be able to elaborate on that later when we talk about it. But guys, were you surprised? 3-Bit, were you surprised to hear a new Tomb Raider was in development?
I wasn't surprised to see that new Tomb Raider was in development, but I was really shocked to see that they changed engines. Because like you said, if you guys play the original Tomb Raiders or the ones that just came out with the Eidos Montreal and Crystal Dynamics, it just looks great. Like the graphics are amazing. Just the fidelity of how far you can see the vistas is just very well done. I believe they use the Foundation engine for a variety of their things, if I'm not mistaken, like the Guardians. Did they use it for that? Do you know?
I don't think so. I think Eidos. I'll have to look that up. Go ahead, keep talking.
Yeah.
I'll look it up.
Yeah, I'm curious to see where else they use it, because I know Unreal Engine 5 is amazing, right? But when you have a studio dedicate their time and resources, especially if you already developed a game like Tomb Raider, and then all of a sudden to change up your pipeline, that takes time. That takes resources. But
IDO. Let's see.
go
I don't. They use the Dawn engine, the same one they use on Deus Ex. For
okay.
Marvin
What about
Zakari.
Final Fantasy? Like
Final
the 15 was
Final
that
Fantasy. Final Fantasy 15
Foundation? Yeah, I'm just curious.
See, I'll look it up.
Okay. But yeah, to have a team where you created 3 Tomb Raider games on that engine, and to have people who are familiar with that engine to all of a sudden switch to Unreal Engine 5 just goes to show you the power of of that engine of Unreal
Nope, that was Square's Luminous. So no.
Luminous.
I think it's only the Tomb Raider game.
Engines.
I think
so
it's
only Tomb Raider
Yeah.
that uses that. Okay. Huh. That's interesting. For some reason,
no, Marvel Avengers.
Marvel's Avengers uses it too.
Yep.
Okay.
Avengers,
Okay,
Shadow
so
of the Tomb Raider,
Avengers-
Rise of the Tomb Raider, and Lara Croft and the Temple of Osiris.
So the Tomb Raider games and Avengers is what they use for the Foundation engine.
Yeah, but it doesn't even say Tomb Raider. It just says Rise of the Tomb Raider and Shadow of the Tomb Raider. So I'm not sure if the original Tomb Raider remake was on there either.
Interesting.
Not sure.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I don't know, man.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, if you guys really think about that, when you have a team and you have things set up, you have assets, code, all that dedicated to a certain engine, and you bring new people on board, they probably have like templates to help out new people who come to the studio and how to use the Foundation engine and all of those inner workings, to all of a sudden just be like, okay, your next game, we're not even going to use any of that. We're going to use Unreal Engine 5. It's pretty big, but it does go to show you that Unreal Engine 5 is being used by so many new developers coming in, like indie developers. Their support documentation for Unreal Engine is just been getting better and better, bringing more people on board to the engine itself. So that does help, but it is a big decision to make, to completely change engines for a whole new game. I know Mav, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, go ahead, Mav. What do you think, brother?
I think there's more to this. And I'm going to point to an article from Paul Tassi. I don't know if anybody has seen Paul Tassi's article from Forbes. I'm going to put the link in the description right now as a first source. But, you know, I think with the whole Unreal thing, he makes some really great points on this article. So we all know that Microsoft and Crystal Dynamics at least have some kind of partnership going on right now for the development of Perfect Dark, right? Which is a very strong connection there. I mean, they're pretty much the main force now that's going to be behind the bulk of the development behind a huge exclusive game, right? And also, we know Microsoft's excitement in the past and infatuation with the Unreal Engine. Also, Coalition being prominent at the Unreal Engine reveal announcement, whatever, you know, as well. And Microsoft has had in the past kind of like wanted games in the Unreal Engine, right? And it kind of seems like a potential interesting thing. You also put into perspective, Microsoft funded the last Tomb Raider reboot with Crystal Dynamics. Is this happening all over again? Right? Is that whole circle? Is it coming full circle now? So Paul Tassi's article kind of puts some light on this from his perspective. I'm going to read a little bit of it. He said, Epic just did a grand launch live stream for Unreal Engine 5, the future of countless video games to come, including use by a huge swath of major industry players. Dozens and dozens of publishers and developers were listed as making Unreal Engine 5 games in the future. But a few things stood out to him, and is determined to fit them into his narrative that he believes Microsoft is circling buying Crystal Dynamics off Square Enix for Xbox. A big reveal of the show was that Crystal Dynamics is going to be making a new Tomb Raider game using Unreal Engine 5. This is a change from the in-house engine they used on past Tomb Raider games and the Avengers game. He says, you'll recall that previously Microsoft was partially responsible for funding the development of Crystal Dynamics Tomb Raider sequel, which ended up meaning it was a timed exclusive. Meanwhile, Square Enix was famously disappointed by the millions of sales the Tomb Raider reboot had, and has publicly criticized Avengers' performance more recently, which me and Pong have had long talks about that, I believe even on this show. on Xbox Ultimate and more, leading to us all to speculate the possibility of Xbox actually acquiring Crystal Dynamics, with Daryl Gallagher being a key focus in that and a key reason why it could be possible. Epic took the time to highlight that Xbox specifically has a huge portion of its studios using Unreal Engine 5 to build its games. Again, Xbox and Epic getting kind of cozy there. This includes the initiative led by ex-head of Crystal Dynamics, and recently Microsoft has brought Crystal Dynamics in to help with that studio's somewhat troubled development of the new Perfect Dark game. I wouldn't necessarily agree. We'll see about troubled development. I don't know where you're going there, Paul, but we'll see. Maybe it's troubled. I don't know. Maybe you know something I don't. In summary, he says, you have Crystal Dynamics frequently criticized by Square Enix, but frequently embraced by Microsoft. You have Epic highlighting its strong relationship with Microsoft, and Crystal Dynamics announcing a new Tomb Raider using Unreal Engine 5 as a feature of the show. And you have Microsoft previously funding Tomb Raider games for timed exclusivity. And he's putting all those boxes, checking all those boxes, kind of leading to where we've had this discussion. This was before Tomb Raider. We were talking about this, and things were all lining up for us. But also, if you chalk in the Tomb Raider, and that also for Xbox, it's another game they can fit into that adventure third-person action game box that a lot of people want. They're going to have Indiana Jones, but we still haven't seen that yet. So is it possible they're going to go out there and make Perfect Dark happen with Crystal Dynamics and on Unreal Engine 5? I think Paul makes a good case on his article. So it's interesting, man. I am super happy about it. Again, that going back to the whole golden age of gaming thing, is this reboot of a reboot again possible? Without all of this, going back to Crystal Dynamics again, for this, I think it's exciting, dude. Because last time we got some gems. If you haven't even booted up Shadow of the Tomb Raider now, which is like the one that everybody said isn't as good, right? But if you boot it up now on like a Series X, oh my god, that game is stunning.
It's gorgeous.
4K 60, just like smooth as butter. I mean, the graphics are incredible. Story is good. That's one of the great trilogies, I would say, of the last generation, right? So I'm excited to see that it's not done with. Even if it's just Square behind it, which possibly it's not. I don't know if they would want to make the same mistake twice, considering they deemed it was a mistake before, right? Crystal Dynamics making a Tomb Raider game. Why would they? That's why I kind of think there's something to what Paul's saying. Like, if they were saying before it didn't make sense to do it, then why would they do it all over again, right? And maybe they're saying, okay, well, this time it's gonna be multi-plat potentially. I don't know, but for me, I would think there needs to be somebody strong behind them getting this kicked off. So either it's another partnership type deal, or there's something to this acquisition, and maybe the Tomb Raider IP coming along for the ride.
Yeah.
Well, since we're in speculation town at this point a little bit, first of all, I'm super excited that we got another Tomb Raider, right? Shadow of Tomb Raider was 2018, I think, right? I think I'm right on that. 2018, I think, was Shadow of the Tomb Raider. So it's already been 4 years. They're just announcing this now. 3 years, probably development, maybe 4 with a new engine, somewhere in that neighborhood. So we're looking at a total of somewhere in the neighborhood of 7 to 8 years without a Tomb Raider. That's why I included it in this list of comeback games, because it's going to be quite some time since we had our last Tomb Raider. Love Lara Croft. She's the original strong female protagonist that kind of took over the world, right? That a lot of people dismiss or forget about when we talk about that kind of stuff and diversity in gaming. But Lara Croft was the original that kind of crossed all the lines, and everybody loved Lara. Maybe all of us for different reasons at the time, but we all love Lara Croft. Lara Croft was amazing. I'm just hoping that this time around that Crystal Dynamics, again, they did an awesome job with the last trilogy, and so did Eidos Montreal as well in Shadow. But Crystal Dynamics did a fabulous job. But I really, and I've been wishing this for a long time, and with stealth coming back and kind of a big way, and Splinter Cell's coming back, and we've seen more stealth games become popular, when we've seen more challenging games like the Soul series become popular as well. I really want Crystal Dynamics to lean into the puzzles again like they used to. I really want to get back to tomb raiding again. like what it originally was meant to be, like an Indiana Jones movie, but I'm interacting with it. Yes, you're going to have some action. Yes, you're going to have some bad guys chasing you, all that kind of stuff. You're going to have, animals and all sorts of stuff in your way. But I want to get back to raiding tombs and really be challenged mentally with puzzles and really find some sweet treasure at the end of it all, right? That's what I would like to see Crystal Dynamics do. But I'm so excited that they're back on board. They're back in the saddle again. But since we are in speculation town a little bit here and discussing this, I think Tassie is into something. I think that, again, Mav, like you said, we've talked about it plenty here, that we thought when they first announced that Crystal Dynamics was going to be working on Perfect Dark. Why? I mean, why would you rent out a AAA studio? Yeah. Like, you just don't rent out AAA studios with the history of Crystal Dynamics. And you can argue, well, it's not the same Crystal Dynamics as all those years. Okay, but it's still a freaking talented group of people. Okay, you put them on a game in Marvel's Avengers that in a style that they've never done before, and then you go ahead, just like Square has been doing with both them and Eidos, and coming out and say, well, it's not living up to expectations. What would you expect? You put a team, no matter how talented, on a brand new type of game that they've never attempted to develop before, and expected the world, plus forcing them to put monetization in the game and trying to figure that whole thing out. It was a square hole round peg situation. It was never going to work from the beginning. So when they rented them out to to the initiative and Microsoft and to do Perfect Dark, it was natural for all of us to start scratching our heads and go, Chris, you're just going to rent out Crystal Dynamics? And then we got the stories that Square had been pitched at least 2 games by that team, and they were both turned down. Okay, so you've got this huge group of talented people sitting around collecting dust in the golden age of gaming, where there's games just coming out. People can't find enough talent to get their studios off the ground or to make and finish games. You just got this whole studio of people just sitting there, and you're turning down proposals, and then you turn around and rent them out to Microsoft. Come on, man. Come on. There's more to this. Now, whether or not we see an acquisition of Crystal Dynamics in the middle of this development cycle, because of course we know things are on hold right now until this Activision Blizzard goes through. Even if there was deals on the table, signed or getting close to signing and ready to rock and roll, those things have all been paused right now while they wait on Activision Blizzard. So maybe we see it right after that happens, that Crystal Dynamics actually has been acquired. Or maybe when Microsoft went ahead and rented Crystal Dynamics, right, they signed a multi kind of game deal with Square Enix. And maybe they said, hey, look, you got Crystal Dynamics not doing anything. What are you doing with them? And Square's like, well, nothing. We turned down 2 of their projects. And they're like, and Phil's like, well, what's their projects? And maybe one of them was this Tomb Raider game, and Phil went, I always love having Tomb Raider on Xbox. Are you freaking kidding me? I've been calling for can we cut a deal? Maybe he cut a multi-game deal to get this done. Maybe, part of the rental agreement was, hey, we'll partially fund or fully fund a Tomb Raider game as well, and let's get those guys to work. Something like that could have happened as well. Just a separate thought there, but that would definitely. I think there's definitely something more here going on. This is an abnormal situation for a studio to be in, and I think 3-Bit, you probably could speak onto this. You just don't see this happen. This is like 3-Bit. This is kind of like what you do as like a contracted animator, right? You just go around to wherever you rent it out to, whatever your company that you're working for. They come in and say, hey, Ubisoft comes in and says, hey, we need some people to work on this, and they contract you, right? And they bring you on board. Basically, that's what Microsoft and Xbox did here. If there's no acquisition deal, but for a AAA studio with that much talent and that much history, that just doesn't happen, does it? 3-Bit?
No, no, it doesn't really. And when Mav was talking about the article, I couldn't help but just think about the relationship between Microsoft and all of these other publishers, between Epic and also Crystal Dynamics. We know that Microsoft or Xbox is very close with Epic, right? A lot of their games are developed on the Unreal Engine. I would say like a majority of their games are on the Unreal Engine, which is why I always thought it was really weird when Sony tried to buy shares in Epic, and they barely have any games actually developed on the Unreal Engine. They have like their own proprietary engines. I always thought that was like a weird relationship. But yeah, you normally don't see this happen, and there probably is some sort of deal. I think, Pong, you probably hit it right on the nose. There probably is some deal going on where they signed some multi game thing going on, and I normally wouldn't think that, but I think because of how Square it tends to treat Crystal Dynamics, and they sort of almost treat them as a separate entity anyways, leads me to believe that that could be the case. Normally I'd be like, probably no, but just based on the history of Crystal Dynamics and how Square kind of like doesn't like how they're performing, and then this could be their way, like, look, we're not performing that well, why don't we just take this deal with Xbox, since you sort of treat us like this anyways, and you'll win, you get money from a multi-trillion-dollar company, and we're able to work on what we essentially want. You know, it's sort of, it kind of works. If you really start thinking about it, it does really work pretty well. So we'll see, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's just very interesting to think about, because like I said, this is such a rare thing. Like, you know, what Mav was talking about, it's just so off the wall and so different from what we're used to seeing in this industry. And again, if this was like a downtime in the industry and Square was talking about maybe, you know, closing down some studios because it just wasn't, you know, like we've seen during the past when this industry has gone through ups and downs, that I could understand, right? But we're in the golden age. We were just talking about, everybody's making games. Like, you can't put out enough games right now. There's so many customers just waiting on content that it's crazy to me that you would be turning down projects from one of your supposed first party studios. You acquired them. You're going to turn down projects that they're pitching to you, and then just simply rent them out to another company and say, yeah, just go ahead, take them.
And it's not like Crystal Dynamics isn't already working. I think people need to understand that too. It's not like Crystal Dynamics isn't already working on something with Microsoft. We know they're working on Perfect Dark, and so they have that relationship. A relationship is there. We do know that. It's just in speculation town. We were just thinking about the other possibilities of, is it also possible that the relationship is furthering with other projects? And I do believe it is possible, for sure.
Yeah, and especially when you got Daryl Gallagher sitting there as the head of the initiative, right? It just makes so much sense. Matt, have you got anything else you want to add to this at all?
Yeah, I just think that it's going to be interesting, you know, to see what happens, you know, with this, because with a lot of these game announcements that we've been getting lately, they haven't had like platforms attached to them, you know, which has been very interesting, because, you know, usually you have the big reveal and it says what console's coming to. It's like revealed at a show or something. But a lot of the reveals we've been getting are like really early on. Right. And it's just like this game, this engine, and no other information. Right. So the one aspect I'll say that could be on the contrary is maybe Square could be using that as like a bidding tool potentially as well. Right, just to put it out there to see, okay, who wants to get the exclusivity for this game. You know, that's just a small thing. I mean, the other aspect could be like, okay, they're going to announce this exclusivity deal with Xbox or the acquisition later, and that's why they didn't say it's exclusive on Xbox now, because that's going to potentially come with a acquisition announcement down the line, right?
And essentially, Square usually partners with PlayStation. It's like Square is partnering usually with PlayStation, and then Crystal Dynamics has a I guess maybe a better relationship with Xbox.
Yeah, it's been strange, especially with Jerrold Gallagher there, right? It's I don't know, but yeah,
and I was gonna say too, Mav, to your point there, like it was kind of, I was thinking about was watching the Unreal presentation and how they had just gotten done showing all the studios that Microsoft is using, right, for Unreal 5, and what a great partnership. And then it was kind of like shortly thereafter, all of a sudden there's Crystal Dynamics. It's almost like the deal might have been in place, and I get this is just speculation town, folks.
Yeah.
Okay, of course. I'm just having fun, but I was thinking about this while I was watching this. Like, wouldn't have that been freaking crazy to have if it was in place and the Activision Blizzard thing didn't come along, and this was just going to be part of the announcements that they were making, and all of a sudden you had just maybe, a day prior, Microsoft had announced, hey, we've acquired Crystal Dynamics and Tomb Raider IP from Square Enix, maybe Eidos Montreal is a part of that, whatever, Deus Ex is a part of that, whatever the case may be, and then they roll right into the Unreal presentation the following day, and there's Crystal Dynamics right after this got done showing all the studios from Microsoft. Would have been hard to add Crystal Dynamics in there, and then all of a sudden they got them announcing the brand new Tomb Raider, right? After they just announced that Microsoft acquired the Tomb Raider IP. Like, how, I mean, I was thinking about that. I was watching, I'm like, God, man, if that was what was lined up that kind of got put on pause, it makes sense, like how they presented it at the Unreal showcase. So that was kind of crazy. I was thinking about that.
Yeah, because the coalition was there too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly. Yep.
So,
yep.
It kind of makes sense. It just a lot of things, a lot of boxes are getting checked with this. It's just interesting to see what's going to happen. But regardless of anything, again, more games is good, regardless of what.
Another Tomb Raider game is always fantastic in my book, especially coming from Crystal.
And Unreal 5 too. I mean, that thing is going to be absolutely freaking insane, I bet, because it's got a hugely talented team. I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to if they go back to more of the roots as well and go to these huge tombs.
Correct. Oh God, especially with what we saw in the environments that Unreal 5 does and all that kind of stuff. My God, and we'll talk about that in a little bit here. We are going to get to Unreal 5 presentation as well. But Tomb Raider obviously was a big deal, but then came along Remedy.
Oh yeah.
Remedy out of the blue. Again, we'll talk about Remedy here in a little bit. Remedy out of the blue comes out and says, oh, by the way, hey, since we're all here making these old games and bringing these old franchises back, hey, we got one too. This, by far, is probably the biggest announcement because this franchise is right up there with the Splinter Cells and that kind of stuff that have been missing, that people have been clamoring for a couple generations now. And that is Max Payne 1 and 2 being remade, not remastered. Again, key word, we're remaking number 1 and number 2. Those who may not be up to speed with Max Payne, this is a franchise that became an instant classic. 1 and 2 were made by Remedy, okay, along with Rockstar. Again, this is back in the day when Rockstar was doing cool things, when Rockstar was putting out different games and developing and publishing all sorts of games. They weren't just Bully, exactly. They weren't just a 1 or 2 song band. Okay, they were putting out hits all over the place in all different ways. So anyways, and this is the early days of Remedy as well. Came out with Max Payne, which introduced bullet time to video gamers, right? Matrix, bullet time. Max Payne did it in the video game better than any game had attempted before, and it became an instant classic, so much so that Rockstar took over number 3 and actually did it to themselves. And we'll get to that also in a second, because I think that's a miss, or it might mean a win at the end of the day for this. But they did announce they are remaking Max Payne 1 and 2. My God, this is so freaking awesome, Mav. And 3-bit. Did you, again, you're the youngest out of all of us, right? You're a baby. Did you ever play Max Payne 1 or 2?
I played the second one. I never
played the second one. Okay, good. Hey, you got some knowledge then. From what you remember, I mean, you were probably like 4 playing on your dad's lap or something. But anyways, from what you remember, Max Payne, what does it do for you, brother? You excited that they're going to remake this? Again, we like new IP, right? We like new IP. We like established franchises and all the things that we get excited for. But bringing back something like Max Payne is pretty cool. Am I wrong?
I love the third one. Okay, so I played it backwards in a way. I played the third one and I really wanted to know his backstory, so I went ahead, played the second, and I beat the second. I just never had the chance to play the first one. I think this is awesome. I've been wanting them to remaster the third one for quite some time. I was championing Xbox to please just give it an update or make it 60 frames or something. Just give it something on the Series X, so I'm able to revisit that. And after Xbox's last patch of backwards compatible games, I'm glad that was one of the games they decided to do, Max Payne 3. And now we're getting Max Payne 1 and 2. And I think Remedy is one of the best teams to do this. They're very good at physics-based shooters where there's like slow motion, things are flying, objects are flying, bullet time. And yeah, I'm actually really excited for this. There's not a lot of games that sort of have that feeling right now. A lot of games are going more towards a multiplayer kind of microtransaction sort of feel, which I don't really have a problem with, but sometimes it's nice to go back and look at some genres of games like this, like Max Payne, where it's like noir, it's like a comic book, and kind of dark, and he like uses drugs and stuff to make himself feel better. Yeah, I really want to see how they remake it. There's so many different ways to remake a game nowadays. You can do the really lazy way, where it's just like a reskin, where it's essentially the old game and you just slap some textures on it, call it a day. Some games really take the time to give the feeling of an older game, but pretty much they just redo everything, which is kind of the route I think they should take, especially knowing Remedy's skill level.
Yep.
But we'll see. I'm really curious to, when they say they're going to remake these 1 and 2, to what extent are they willing to go, especially for the fans who really love these first 2 games. So I would love for them to just go ahead and completely just go ahead and rehaul everything. Right. If they can, but we'll see.
I think that's what we're all hoping for. You brought up a great point too, which I failed to mention in the beginning. There was that in that last batch of backwards compatibility, the Max Paynes did become available as backwards compatible, which is freaking amazing, especially now knowing that they're doing this. A lot of times we see hesitation in making backwards compatibility when they're going to do a remake. So I'm wondering if this was something that just kind of came out of the blue, where Rockstar and Remedy kind of got together and did this. But Matt, for you, brother, I know you're pretty hyped about this. I know you're excited. Max Payne is a great series. Like 3-Bit just mentioned, a very, very flawed protagonist, which we don't see as often as I would like, especially Max Payne 3. Look, he's one of those protagonists that sometimes you love to hate, right? You're playing him, but the stories out of Max Payne are dark, gritty, like 3-Bit said, comic book style, kind of just arcs that they have in them. Awesome. Just incredible games, all of them. If you go back and play 1 and 2, again, don't hold up as well as you would like. 3 still holds up. While not perfect and does show its age, it's still a lot better than 1 or 2 is, in my opinion. But Matt, for you, when you heard remake instead of remaster, you and I have had this conversation, right, before too. Like, we saw what remaster meant for the Grand Theft Auto trilogy, right?
that was not even a, like, I don't know. I don't know what you call that.
Right. A half-ass remaster is what that was.
Half-aster. Yeah. It's a half-aster.
Yeah, half-aster. Half-aster. Very good, sir. Yeah, so we've seen really great remasters. But most of the time when like the Mass Effect trilogy, I'll take Mass Effect 1, right? That's basically a remaster, right? They didn't change engines, but they brought it up to date and they did a freaking beautiful, phenomenal job with what they were working with, okay? It completely played differently than the original one did, and really felt refreshed. But we've seen absolute shit remasters as well, half-asters that come out and it's like, why even do this? You're not doing anything for the game. You're not doing anything for your studio. This is just simply a cash grab at this point, and everybody catches on real quick. Now the Grand Theft Autos can get away with it. They still sold a ton, whatever. That's Rockstar nowadays. That's what they do. But when you heard remake instead of remaster, does this give you more hope? And obviously talk about your hype as well, man, but does this give you more hope that we are going to see really I mean, I get 1 and 2 are old. Okay. You go back and play and you understand. I don't think they could really even remaster those if they wanted to. They're going to have to build these up from the ground up. And second of all, I want you to touch on this too, because you and I have had plenty of conversations about Remedy. Look, I'm a Remedy fan. Okay. Some people don't like Remedy, but the one criticism I always have Remedy is, how many freaking projects are you guys going to take on?
Yeah.
How many are you going to take on? How long is it going to take you to get them all done? And are they going to be worth it? Now, we saw the issues with Crossfire X. They took that on as a side job, but they already had three other projects at that time. And look what we got. We didn't get the real Remedy game that we are used to, which generally speaking is pretty polished and pretty well done. So go ahead, man.
The
talk about
Remedy projects right now.
They got
Control?
They got 3. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Control 2. They got Alan. They got the new Alan Wake coming, right?
Alan Wake.
Yep.
Yeah. Then they got the Max Paynes, and wasn't there something else?
Yes, there's something else in there too. So they've got 4 right now. I'm trying to find it. Like,
that's where they're working on.
I swear they are. Well, I'll pause. If I can find it, I'll find it. Benji Sales, great member of this community. Yeah. Everybody go follow him. He's awesome. He said that they've got 3 currently with Max Payne. So it's Alan Wake 2, Control, Max Payne 1 and 2. So he's got 3 listed. I thought they had announced something else in there too.
I thought they had 2, but I could be wrong. I could be wrong on
studios,
but
still,
up.
3.
However, that's still a lot. For a studio that's usually finishing 1 project at a time, and they usually take an extremely long time on that project. And
these aren't passion projects. These are full blown AAA projects.
Yeah,
these are full blown AAA projects.
Yeah, Sam Lake has got his hands full.
Yeah.
I'm wondering though, like my main question is will this lead to another Mark Wahlberg Max Payne movie?
Ooh,
hope not.
What's wrong with you, 3-bit? No slander in here for Wahlberg. Come on, man.
Yeah,
man.
Don't diss Marky
cool
Mark.
Scene. I'll admit it had 1 cool scene, but that was about it.
Yeah, let's remaster that.
Like jumping out the window or something. It's like an angel catching him. That was pretty cool.
Yes.
So gameplay wise, like Max Payne had so many innovations at the time, like with bullet time and stuff, and the story narrative was dark and stuff. Is kind of like new for that time, and it doesn't necessarily something that holds up today, going back and playing the old ones very, very well, right? But it's an opportunity for them to take that. And that's something that Remedy's always done, is they've taken these like really fluid gameplay concepts and tried to like implement like unique gameplay features in their games, right? Like Control has stuff, Quantum Break has that kind of stuff in it as well. They always try to find like some kind of like thing to implement, Max Payne 3 I thought was really good as well, but that was Rockstar, I think, that developed that, right?
Correct. Yeah, so, they took over for 3. They took total control at 3.
So this is a chance to go back to its darker roots, I think, and also try and come up with something new and fresh for the game, and maybe it can kind of twist things and implement something that we've never thought of again, right? Because bullet time, we were like fascinated back then. How does this even work in a video game? Like, you're slowing down time. That was like, what's going on? How is this possible, right? But it worked, and they did that. Now I'm thinking, what can they do? Can they blow our minds again and use Max Payne to do it, right? Or is it just going to be a true recreation? I think there's opportunity to do something more with the franchise and make it even bigger than it ever was before. Because I think, to like a lot of the diehard gamers and a lot of us out there, like Max Payne is like, wow, that's like a classic franchise. We love it. But then you have a lot of people that don't really know what Max Payne is, that like don't really understand why we're all excited about a Max Payne game. Like they just think of that the Mark Wahlberg movie and like, that thing. Is that game that back in the day that they like Mark Wahlberg made a movie on or whatever? Then I think that it's got potential to be a massive franchise, and this is again the golden age stuff. You know, investing in these old franchises, bring them back, not letting them die, right? Because you have it's good if you do it along with all the new IP, right? If it's just like if this is all you're doing and you just like can't come up with new ideas and all this kind of stuff, then that's one thing. But like there's so many new games out there and coming out and all these new studios and all this new investment and everything that it's great to have these franchises not die. And you got these IPs just sitting there. So many of them. All these companies do. Just laying to waste, right? And to sit there and be like, yes, we're gonna do something with this. It's important, I think, for gaming to also kind of like bring these franchises to a new audience, right? Because it can be done in a fresh way and to a new audience. And even though it's maybe like Perfect Dark is another example, right? A game that's like kind of older, right? To a lot of people, it's a fresh new thing, you know, because they never played it or it's like before their time, you know?
Look what Mass Effect did. Mass Effect, same thing, right? People like Steel Rain who never played it. My brother had never played Mass Effect. Now he's like, I know exactly why you all praised it. It's one of his favorite franchises of all time, right? He got to experience it in its best light possible. We talk about that all the time, Mav. New audiences plus your old audiences. It's a win-win situation to bring these popular IPs back for sure.
Yeah, and there's so many more they can do. You know, and I think we talked about this before. Like, I think each one of these major publishers right now, and Remedy's a unique situation because they're independent, you know. But I think each one of these major publishers need to have like one or two teams that just constantly work on these like older franchises or IPs, and you know, there's certain devs out there that have had a track record of doing this, like Blue Point and you know all and some of these other devs, but like you know, have a few devs or dev teams that like they're not taken away from the new creations because that's what they do. You know, like that's their job. They go and they bring life to these old games and stuff. And I think it's important. Now, like again, I don't want that in lieu of new IP, right? I want both. I want new ideas, new creations, because that gives another chance to create a legendary franchise. But like, I don't want to see all these franchises just die because gaming is different than movies in a way, right? Because in movies, you know, you have this classic old movie, you know, like you can remastered and brought to life in 4K, and you can go and watch that movie. It may be from the 60s or 40s, and it's like, okay, well, that was a great watch, enjoyable, you know, look great on my screen. But like when you're playing an old game, it's different. Like that feel is hard to overcome because the games have progressed in so many ways with controls and all of these other things that things are like not tangible, right? Like we can't see it, but it's changed the way the games are, right? And I think bringing a lot of these franchises up to the new way of controls and the way the games feel and you know lighting techniques. And I could just imagine Max Payne with these like dark alleys and stuff like that with the moon glow lighting, on the lighting on the water and the reflections at night with the street lights and stuff. I'm just like my mind's going all this stuff and it's like yes, that's what it needs to be. And it's like so many new possibilities now that weren't possible back then, you know, and I want to see that. And it's happening. So it's amazing, dude.
One of the hardest things probably for Remedy and a lot of these developers moving forward, whenever you remaster an old game, you have to figure out, okay, what made Max Payne, and how much of new mechanics should I even add to like the first and second game. You know, you really have to think about like, okay, maybe have better movement. Should I introduce a new feature, or would old fans be mad that we added this in? It's like you really have to toe a line because it should definitely have new features in there, but you also have to be respectful for the people who want the first two games but they want it just updated. It's like this weird line you have to mix for new players, and that's probably one of the hardest things they would have to do, Remedy. I think Halo 2 Anniversary was pretty good. They managed to update the old visuals, but also made it so if you wanted to experience new visuals, you can experience that basically separately. You could just turn a flick of a button and you just press the back button, you see new visuals, like, okay, I want to see the old ones. That was probably the best way to do it, but not every game is going to approach it that way. So I think
I don't need to see Max Payne's old pixelized head. Everybody's been posting old screenshots. I'm like, God, that's ugly.
Yeah, and that was actually Sam Lake.
Sam Lake.
That was Sam Lake, the head of Remedy, right?
Yeah.
So it's interesting. Like he's still there. He's still the head of the studio and all this stuff. So he's gonna
be back in the mocap studio.
I don't need to see that.
No, it is interesting. And here's what I was talking about when I introed this part. My main thing though was, why not 3? Why not the entire trilogy? And I know Rockstar did 3, right? I know that, but why not? Why not give it to Remedy and let them do that? Unless Rockstar is currently going to go ahead and do 3 kind of under the cover of night, side by side with Remedy's 1 and 2, and launch them all together, right? It's because they made it quite clear this is definitely in partnership with Rockstar, as it has to be. So maybe just maybe Rockstar's got a team working on 3, because 3 would not take as much to bring it up to date, because I think that Rockstar probably could get away with remastering it if they do it a little bit better than they did GTA, but they could probably get away with 3 with just bringing it more up to date. But 1 and 2 have to be built from the ground up again. But I think that's a miss if they're not doing something with 3 to not launch this as a trilogy like Mass Effect did. I think that's a big miss for me. But I'm just hoping that kind of means. You guys got any thoughts on that? You think that they're doing 3? You think Rockstar might be working on that separately, since it is kind of their baby? They took over at that time.
Rockstar is so weird with their IP. It's hard to tell. Like usually I'll be like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. But Rockstar is just so stingy with how they handle the rest of their IP outside of the Grand Theft Auto franchise. So like we haven't seen them remaster a lot of their other IPs that they definitely could, like Bully, or I know Bully, they did the Scholarship Edition, which was like the 360 version from the original Xbox version of Bully. But I don't think they've done that outside of GTA, unless someone can remind me of like a franchise that they recently started to like remaster.
I think GTA is the only one. I could foresee them like trying to piggyback off of Remedy's games with the highest level, or they may keep an eye on it and they wanted to reserve that because that's one that they worked on. So they may keep an eye on how those games do and be like, okay, if those games sell well, they'll do their own, because they're probably looking at it as in like, we can probably not have to put too much work into this thing if we want to, if we end up wanting to do it and then get a third one out there. I'm hoping they don't take that approach, but that's just kind of what their MO's been so far with that kind of stuff. So the other thing is they could make Max Payne 4.
Right. That's what I'm hoping for. Right.
And if that's the case, do they want to keep control of 3 for themselves as well, just to, because that would be the prelude to that game. Who knows exactly? Maybe they could bundle Max Payne 3, with
like a remaster 3 with a
4,
new 4 or something,
right? Like as like an incentive, have them released or like right before, because the game publishers are, whenever they start doing these remasters, another thing and another incentive for them is to draw more interest into the franchise, to see if they is enough engagement to warrant them making a whole new game. And if I'm Rockstar, I look at, okay, maybe it's not going to be as expensive to make like a Max Payne game as it would be a Red Dead 3 or like a GTA after 6, because we already know they're doing 6. So they're probably looking at, okay, what are some of our franchises we have that we can start putting out some more games with that are not going to be as like cost prohibitive, and Max Payne could be one of those, and that could be one of the reasons they went ahead and gave the go ahead to Remedy as well. So there could be a lot to this with the decision making behind it, but I think it's all going to be dependent on what happens with this with these first 2 games, and how long is it going to take them to get them out? We'll see. Yeah. We may not see these for like 5 years.
That's the whole problem, right? With Remedy, like I was talking about.
Yeah.
But that's my biggest hope, that this re-sparks Max Payne as a series, and that Rockstar looks at it and goes, wow. And just like you said, Mav, we don't need We don't have to make a big giant open world with Max Payne. That's not required in any stretch of the imagination.
exactly.
So we don't have to invest what we normally would invest
linear,
into.
you know.
It's more linear. It's about the story. It's about the writing. And so this opens them up to that, and they go, okay, this is the one franchise we can kind of do that with. We can get a smaller team on it. It doesn't have to be a huge team. Let's go for it. Let's go for 4. Let's get Max Payne back into our catalog again. That would be absolutely fantastic, because I know for a fact that a lot of people, if Remedy does 1 and 2 right, a lot of people are going to discover Max Payne for the first time. And a lot of us are going to rediscover our love for Max Payne, even though we already do. We're gonna find out if Remedy does it right, just like Mass Effect. And I keep going back to Mass Effect because it's the best example that I've seen so far of somebody redoing game like that. But we're going to go back and rediscover all the reasons why we love Max Payne all over again. And we're going to be clamoring for a new one in the series as well, along with 3 being redone. And then that's when Rockstar will see those dollar signs and they will say, let's do it. Let's get it done. So that's what I'm hoping for. Exciting times, though, nonetheless. We absolutely killed that topic. We actually talked a little bit longer than I thought we would, especially on the Tomb Raider. We got into speculation time, which was awesome. Yeah. So great job, gentlemen. So let's move on. First of all, fantastic people still rocking out in the chat. I got nearly 50 of you in here. I see Siki, see Solcon showing up. Trinity still rocking out with us, adding to the conversation in there. Bearded Banga, great to see you. Sean Han, awesome to see you as well. Sean Bassey, thank you for stopping in. That mama rocks, who just got a new job recently. Congratulations on that to you, ma'am. Great to see you in here as well. So all of you, awesome. Caper Grant jumped in here as well, brother. Always great to see you. So let's move on. What should we talk about? Let's talk about Unreal 5. We've mentioned it so much during this first conversation here. Let's talk about Unreal 5. For anybody who doesn't know, Epic had a nice big, what was it, like 45-minute presentation this week on Unreal Engine 5, the official launch. We know it's been out there. Studios have had it, like the Coalition, for about the past year, I think, or so, right, 3-bit? About the past year it's been out. Yeah, somewhere in that neighborhood. But they officially announced it to the world, released it to the world, into the wild. Everybody jump on board. Epic makes no secret that they want every game developed in Unreal 5. They are pouring tons of resources in this, and I'm going to let 3-bit specifically obviously talk about this a lot, get Mav's thoughts on this too as well. But what an awesome presentation. They showed off all the new kind of feature sets that they have included in this one. They've showed how much easier it has gotten. I said this on Xbox Factor. It made me, guy who hasn't developed since like the Apple IIe, think that he could probably jump into Unreal 5 and teach himself how to make a game, right? That's how easy it looks with how they're doing it. I know it's much more complicated than that. I know I probably could never do that. But at the end of the day, what they were showing on the screen was definitely giving me those vibes. Like they are opening up game development to more and more and more people, which we have definitely talked about. The accessibility of these tools is what's helping this industry flourish, and 3-bit's going to be able to talk about that. But the Lyra game mode that they have in there, the actual game kind of set up in there, I think it's called Lyra, that just looked cool on its own, and how you can kind of change the levels as you go, and you can kind of use that as your basis for your game if you want to. Just all of that stuff. And then we got individual examples from devs like the Coalition, and they showed off. Of course, we had seen their demo last year. They went ahead after the show and released more of a different kind of demo, which was set in the cave. I think it was actually called the Cave or something like that. They released that footage, absolutely jaw-dropping graphics, especially when it comes to the character models and how realistic we are getting. So I am not the tech guy, so I'm going to pass this one off to 3-bit. 3-bit, the Unreal 5 presentation. You've had hands-on with Unreal 5. You've been playing around with Unreal 5 over the past
like
year
6
or so.
months or more now.
Yeah,
right?
something like that. Yeah, you've been playing around with it a lot too. You've given us some behind-the-scenes stuff when you first started playing around with it. Brother, talk about this presentation. Talk about it from an expert kind of point of view. What did you see? What really caught your attention? Was there anything new that you hadn't kind of found out through your experimenting with it? Was there something else that you found out in there? Just give your overall impressions. Unreal 5, how is this going to change the industry? What does this mean for everybody looking forward as gamers, coming up in the future? What do you think, man?
Yeah, the presentation was amazing. It was geared towards developers, but as you saw upon, like, it was very good for people who just have like a basic understanding of games, or maybe just like love playing games. They were able to see basically the benefits of how easy it can be. A lot of the games that are being built now on like Unreal Engine 4 has pre-baked lighting, for example. So what that means is you set up a light in a scene and it creates the shadows, and then it basically has to stick that way. That's how the scene has to look. If you change the lighting or anything, it has to re-render. It has to essentially basically you picture like saving a file. It has to resave the file and loads, et cetera, et cetera. Unreal Engine 5 doesn't have to do that. It is real-time lighting. You can move the lights wherever you want. That's what they were showing in the Lyra demo. They were moving this like blue globe around and the lighting was changing in real time. That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. And I think a common factor for people who ask, what are the benefits to Unreal Engine 5? And really, it's all about different pipeline processes, which is essentially how you decide to build the game. What makes a studio different from another studio is essentially how they decide to build their game. What they define as important and not as important. You have like Coalition versus, let's just say, the people who make Arkham. What is it? Nether. Who makes Arkham Asylum?
Rocksteady.
Yeah.
They both use Unreal Engine, but what makes them different? It's really all about their pipeline processes, and Unreal Engine 5 just makes things a lot easier. Despite how impressive, because I have a lot to say on this topic, so just stop me.
Keep going, brother. That's right. One of the main reasons why we brought you here, brother. I knew you'd bring it. So,
so it's up to the developers to fully utilize and optimize the features in Unreal Engine 5, right? But also there are features that AMD has been introducing that is exclusive to RDNA 2 chipsets. So which means PC and Xbox for now, right? That's basically whenever you see AMD going on stage or talking about all the fancy features that are coming to the consoles, it's PC and Xbox. The bad thing is, and I really want to bring this up because I think it is important to the future of development of games. The bad thing is those features are not necessarily on the PlayStation. And I know some fanboys are going to say, like, oh, that means Xbox is the best box, yada, yada, yada. But just know what that actually means is that can cause a ripple effect on development. Multi-platform games where developers decide that those features aren't even worth touching. They might decide that just because it's not on the PlayStation. If feature sets work for one console and not the other, some developers wouldn't put optimization time until maybe a game launches. They might decide to, optimize the game after a game launches. So you run into this issue with Unreal Engine 5, AMD, and all this different stuff where you have all these amazing features that you just saw in these presentations. You have the real-time lighting and all this, which will be on the PS5. I'm not saying it won't, but some of the features that are on RDNA 2, you run into the issue that these features might not even be on these consoles for a while. You'll most likely see it for Xbox. You most likely will see on first party games for a bit.
I was just going to say they showed up that big list of first party studios using it for Xbox. That's why that's so important. There's like 9, I think. Boxenberger thinks there's a total of like 14 plus teams currently using Unreal. But like you're saying, that's where we're going to see the implementation of some of these features most prominently, is because, like you're saying, when it's third party public or developer, they're going to make it for PS first, or they're going to take the PlayStation in consideration and they're not going to put extra time to enable those features for Xbox, correct?
Yes, exactly. Like Sony doesn't have RDNA 2 features. It chose to do its own solutions in some areas. In other areas, it doesn't have the feature sets at all. So that can put developers, multi-platform developers, in a tricky spot on whether or not they build those features in mind with their game, knowing one platform has a totally different way of optimizing the features in the game. So you will most likely see all these really cool features later on, maybe, and maybe Sony eventually figures out a way to put in some of these RDNA 2 features.
I got a question about that too. It does.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do older PCs also create a issue there, or is it only consoles? Like, I don't know. Can you like let's say I have a 5-year-old PC, right, or 6-year-old PC, and it's running like a older graphics card. Is that limited in any kind of way as well to be running this newer stuff, or is it just
For
consoles?
the most part, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think older chipsets will be able to do some things, because it, at the end of the day, you need RDNA 2 chipsets for a lot of these new features.
Right. So PC gaming can also be a hurdle, right?
It can be.
Yeah,
it can be. But the thing is, what these features are also doing, on top of like some of those things that you need the chipset for, it's also helping for optimization overall. So yes, you do need the AMD chips for these features, but at the same time, it is helping optimization for games in general. So open world games are going to play a lot better. Unreal Engine 5 is good for that. And I will stop my nerd talk in a second, but I do want to hit on one more point. So we know that Sony doesn't have RDNA 2. And Xbox does, right? So that can cause a ripple effect where a lot of developers decide to not even do some of these next gen features because they develop for PlayStation first. And usually how it goes is developers develop for PlayStation first and then Xbox. And that's not a fanboy statement. That's just how I've seen it. And that's just how it tends to be. They develop for Sony first. It's a lot more of a popular platform. And then it ripples to Xbox. Like, you make the PlayStation version of a game first, and then you make an Xbox version. That's just how it is. It's how it's been for a while. And the reason why I keep seeing these back and forth comparisons, oh, PlayStation games perform better, oh, Xbox games perform better, is for the simple fact that a lot of these tools just aren't there yet. I know people joke about the tools and stuff like that, but they're also, people have to realize that PlayStation 4 and 5 are very similar in their architecture. Not much of a learning curve when you're developing a game for PS4 to PS5. Series X, it's a whole new ball game of just tech that is, this is new tech in a way. A lot of this stuff is it's impressive, it's brand new, and some developers have to learn.
Because of that RDNA 2 stuff in the AMD, because they're embracing all the new stuff, right? But I guess what you're saying is the devs have to catch up to that in a way.
That's the bad part. Like, you have a lot of this new technology, which is amazing, and for sure put it in your games. I think it'll benefit it, but it's going to take time for these developers to learn it. And then you also run up against the thing where Sony doesn't have a lot of these features. So what do you do then? Do you put all this development time into only having it on one machine and not the other? Or do you decide like, okay, well, I'll just not put it in at all and just make my game look as good as I can without these? You run into some issues when you picture a lot of these next gen features. You're like, wow, all this stuff is awesome, and it's amazing, but can I even put it in my game? Because PlayStation 5 is one of the most, or PlayStation in general is one of the most popular platforms, so it's a weird situation for a lot of these developers to be in. And I'm sure they're questioning the same thing. I'm sure they're in these rooms, they're questioning like, okay, a lot of these features are amazing, but can we even put it in our game? If can we figure out a way to just optimize it for this and just totally admit it from the PS5, or do we just avoid fanboy wars
Well,
online and just not put it
it
in?
kind of makes it clearer too when Phil Spencer originally said, "Yeah, we plan on supporting current gen for like 1 to 2 years, and then after that, moving on to purely next gen." Right? And that,
Yeah,
it kind of leads you, and everybody was like, "Oh, Xbox is not moving forward; they're going to hold back gaming." And turns out it's actually like maybe the other way around because a lot of the first party games on PlayStation right now they're still announced as being cross gen between PS4 and PS5, and maybe there's less reason because of the lack of those features to do a PS5 only game, right? So maybe in a way where people used to say the games aren't scalable, maybe that it's actually going to be scalable more to old gen on PlayStation actually in these games because of the lack of RDNA 2 and stuff, right? Like that's just I'm not a game dev, it's just a thought like because it all kind of lines up now. Like a lot of the games that have been announced for Xbox at the original E3 conference that they had or the fake E3 whatever it was, they announced like several games and several of them didn't say Xbox One on the bottom, right? But we didn't have release dates for those yet. Games like Fable, Elder Scrolls 6. You have like, I think Starfield's next gen only, even.
Yeah.
Um,
Originally, yep.
yeah, sorry, current gen. I know Pong hates that. Sorry, current gen only, and all this stuff.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like Xbox had foreseen that, and maybe COVID also, and the whole everything going on with the industry the last couple years kind of pushed things back even further, right? But it kind of lines up with what their strategy has been all along, and those first party games going forward. Maybe that's where we're gonna see this stuff, and maybe that's why Hellblade 2 looked so damn insane when we saw that gameplay presentation, right?
Oh yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think for the most part, and it is a weird, very techie conversation to have, but I do think it's important to have it. It's kind of weird because Xbox, the way they have lined their consoles, is how important crossplay is, how important Xbox to PC is, and a lot of their technology is geared towards Xbox and PC, right? But you also have to think about where they have support for a lot of their different devices, phones, right? They have supported across from Xbox One to Series X and PC. They're doing that right now, but in the future, they said 1 to 2 years, we are dropping support for those consoles to focus on the new consoles, and it's basically to take advantage of some of these features. Because I'm in the boat, and I always will be in the boat where I believe games are scalable, right? I do think that for the most part, you have a game on Xbox, you can put it on PC, and you can scale that experience. I do believe that is a thing. But there has to be some weird cutoff, and I don't know what it is, for you to advance technology and have people upgrade. I don't know exactly when that will be, like basically raising the minimum specs for PCs. I think is the route they might end up going, to slowly raising it just a little bit towards newer chipsets so they can start really taking advantage of it. Because and I talked to Dealer about this a long time ago, because it really is interesting. PC in a way is holding consoles back.
Yeah,
It's because of the minimum specs.
it's the lowest spec and it's the highest spec, right?
Yeah. And
So
it's weird to think about, like, yes, PC master race, PCs are so powerful, but a lot of PCs are actually holding consoles back because the PC market is so huge. They try to appeal to so many different types of PCs, and usually the minimum spec is very low. It's like a 10 60 graphics card or something like that. So they build their games according to those minimum specs. So in a way, PC is holding back next gen consoles, which is weird to say. It's weird to say because you think about PCs as like the best thing, but
let me ask you this, 3-bit, from an indie developer side of things, from somebody who's worked on his own games before and stuff like that, and you did it a while ago, but let's say you were to go back to Abandoned, right? And again, I wasn't joking about that, folks. He actually has a game, Abandoned. But anyways, let's say you were going back and you were going to start right now. Looking at Unreal Engine 5, like I said, when I was watching that, there was times where I was thinking to myself, God, I could really learn how to do this. Like, it's changed so much. And they talked about all this integration that they're doing with all these other things like Quixel for high-res scans and all that kind of stuff. And they're going to have a phone app where you can do high-res scans from your phone. Like, that's crazy insane to me. But from an indie developer, from, like, say, a small team, whether it's a single person or just a small team starting out, how close are we with like Unreal? And I'm talking about Unreal 5 because obviously that's the presentation we're talking about. Now, obviously there's Unity and other things out there, but how close are we with where Epic is taking Unreal 5? How close are we to indie developers really putting out games where we can't tell a difference? Like there's going to be AAA looking titles, and I'm talking from top to bottom. Like I always say right now, there's indie games like Death's Door that come out that I would, if you told me that it was a Ubisoft game, I would say, oh, okay, cool. Small team made that. It's cool. It's polished. It's awesome. It's amazing. Right. But how close are we to seeing like AAA production? Like, you know, whatever, take whatever graphics you want to take from an indie team that's really going to push the boundaries where we go, what? How many people made this? Like 10 people made? I mean, is Unreal finally getting to that point where it's going to be that accessible that people really are going to take advantage of it?
Yeah, you kind of see it, and not the places you expect. You mostly will see Unreal Engine 5 examples where you're just like, wow, that looks real and that looks incredible, and it's such a small team doing it. You'll see it in TV shows.
Okay.
You look at backgrounds in TV shows, you're like, oh, you don't even think about it. You're like, oh, that's real. Possibly most of the backgrounds in Halo could have been in Unreal. I'm not sure. I would have to go check. But Mandalorian, for example, most of the backgrounds in Mandalorian were Unreal Engine.
Right.
And so a lot of these smaller teams are already doing that in different aspects. And what makes people go to Unreal Engine 5 and continue to where it's growing is the documentation, actually, which means that Epic is pouring millions of dollars into making it as easy as possible to use. They are creating tutorials. They are making plugins that are making systems easier. Like if you want to make a third-person slasher game, they will create a whole third-person slasher game, give you all the source code and how to do it, and just be like, here,
right,
completely for free. So that helps a lot. I think that helps indie developers a lot, where instead of building stuff from scratch, they will literally just build stuff for you, give it to teams, and give it to them for free. And where they get the benefit is when the game finally comes out, they get a percentage. They get like the 20% if it makes $100,000 or something like that. So they're seeing it as a benefit there. But so far, from little examples I've seen examples where I didn't even know what was real, what was fake, and it would be made in like a day. You know, it's really incredible what the engine is doing right now. So I'm excited to see what people churn out, and now that it's available to everyone, like, come on.
That's what gets me excited, right? Is just seeing, because I've seen examples from small people just playing around in Unreal 5 that are creating absolutely incredible thing. Guy just released a video where he had created a Superman like he was flying, so it was like Superman like, but he was flying through the Matrix City and landing on cars and smashing them. And it was just a quick little thing that he put together, right? And that's the stuff that gets me excited. Because again, when we get to that point where indies really can just take limited resources, but have have the accessibility to something like Unreal 5 that makes everything so easy to do what the big boys are doing, but just not with that budget, and really bring out a game that's blowing our minds in all ways, graphics and on down. That's when because again, then the sky's the limit from that point on. And I think that that's where this industry is headed to, where anybody with limited knowledge can sit down and teach themselves how to develop a game. And we're going to see some incredible ideas that we never would have before, because so many people are going to be working on games. It's going to be so cool. I just love what Unreal what Epic is doing with Unreal and trying to create that moment in time. Mav, for you, brother, like coalition demos and that kind of stuff, for you, what really stood out in this Unreal 5 presentation, and what got you excited? What did you see that was like, oh man, wow, look at that, man, I can't wait to see a game put that in there, or I can't wait to see what the dev does with it? What really got you going, brother?
The coalition stuff, man.
Yeah.
It's just like, damn, our game, when our game's gonna actually look like this, like, I see these demos and stuff before, and usually the demos, like, we get those and we're like, oh, that's really impressive, but you don't actually ever see anything that looks like that for like 15 years. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's why I wasn't like going over the moon for the Matrix demo. Like, it was cool to play, right? Which that was only on Xbox, right?
No, that was on
was it on PlayStation?
PS5
no, it was on PlayStation.
Okay,
2.
okay.
Yep. Xbox Series and PlayStation 5. Yep.
So, if that was only on Xbox, that's maybe making my wheels even spin even more. But no, yeah, just the whole aspect of like, wow, this is possible. Like, I don't know. I already knew it was going to be insane just from having conversations with you 3-bit in the past when you first like got your hands on it, and you're like, wow, I can do this. And you're explaining the whole like, pony thing, how you had like a million ponies in there when you were trying to do that rendering thing where you had not console war pony stuff, but like, he actually had physical ponies in a scene. And
I put like a million in there and my computer was not lagging. I just had the model and I just wanted to test it out, and wow, Unreal Engine just breezed through it.
And when you told me that, I was like, wow, okay, that's actually a quantifiable difference that you just right away, and you explained all these other things with the textures and all that stuff. I'm like, it's gonna be interesting. Like, when are we gonna see these games, right? And now we're seeing the tech demos, and it's very interesting. I think like Coalition's been along for this whole ride with the Unreal presentations. You remember when Unreal Engine 5 was originally like revealed at the whole start of the console generation? Everybody thought it was only possible on PlayStation.
Yeah.
Godfall.
Godfall's only possible. The SSD.
And now you're seeing like Coalition there, Crystal Dynamics making announcements and stuff like that. Like, it's just really cool to see that so many devs are going to have access to such powerful tools, right? To see guys like you, and other people who may want to take that journey of making a game themselves, or like a small team or something, be able to create something that's visually huge, right? Just visually like, wow, gives you that wow factor, which used to not be real possible for the indie community, The indie community, you say indie game, it almost like, okay, it's gonna be like a little platformer, it's gonna be a little top-down thing, it's gonna be something kind of silly like that, it's gonna be like a take on an old genre, a classic-looking bit style game. So, there's all these connotations with indie games, but now you see these indie games all getting announced, and there's a lot of them. Like, the teams start out small. Sometimes they go through the project, sometimes they stay as a small team, but it's like you could put that next to a AAA big time budget game from one of the devs that's been around for 30 years and be like, it's hard to say which one made which game, you know what I mean? And this is going to empower that even more, which leads to the whole golden age thing again, but making it easier and more accessible for games and for developers to make new games and kick off projects, because the cost is a lot lower associated with that, because you're able to make stuff that has more potential at a smaller price and on a smaller scale, so it's going to be insane. I think the whole landscape is just changing, and technology is usually what pushes that, right? Yeah, I'm excited for it, dude. But yeah, that coalition shot, with the character like up close in the
Yep.
face and stuff. You see it a lot all over the
It's
place.
like holding the crystal or whatever.
Yeah,
Mhm.
like that.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
that alone is like, I'm sold. Everybody use Unreal 5, unless you can't because your game won't feel the same. You know what I mean? Like whatever. Which is something to that too, right? You can't just take every franchise and say do it in Unreal 5, right? Because if it's like a long-standing franchise that has like certain aspects to it, like one thing about Unreal, like Unreal games, even though it's a very flexible engine, like a lot of times you can kind of spot, okay, it's a game in Unreal, like it feels like an Unreal game, all this kind of stuff, right? So it's not saying like, hey, everybody use this one engine. That would be bad, right? I think we want other engines to be great too. Xbox has several different ones on them. PlayStation has several different engines that they're using.
Slipspace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if everybody was made with the same engine, that would not be a great thing. But I think this is going to push other engines forward as well, right? Like
for sure.
Other studios and other people that are making these game engines are going to see everything that they did with Unreal 5. Like, okay, well, we can do something.
Unity's
similar.
already trying.
Yeah.
If you look at a Unity demo they just released where it was like this lady like playing chess or something.
Yes.
It looks
Yes.
super realistic.
Yes.
Like, wow. Yeah.
That's the whole thing. I guess for me, it goes back to my original point when I was talking about with 3-bit was that to me, yeah, we could get to that point where everybody's using Unreal. And again, Epic would love that, right? That's what they want. That's their goal. Hey, it's a business. I get it. But the point being is that just unlocking the potential for creativity from new people who may before thought that programming or developing a game was going to be too hard for them, but now it gets to the point where the tools are so accessible that they jump in anyways and they do it. Or even a team, and I'm just going to throw out Todd Howard and Bethesda, even though they use Creation Engine, but they had to wait to do Starfield until technology had caught up.
Yeah.
So even for the big time developers out there, maybe they've been holding on to ideas that just could not work right now. And the more we push this stuff, the more the Epic pours money into Unreal, the more Unity comes along, all these kinds of stuff. It's just going to open up people and they're not going to have those limitations anymore. And that's what I'm excited for because there's still stuff to be discovered. This is not Hollywood that's run out of ideas. So they're going back to the old things all the time. This is still undiscovered territory. There's so much more to explore out there with games and with imaginations that come along with that or that create that I think that these engines are the leading edge of that and to kind of push that forward because then somebody goes, oh, now I can do that. Now I had this idea and it wouldn't have worked before or it would have looked like not the way I wanted it to look, but now I can do it.
And they're going to start putting it in. Right?
Yes, it really is unlimited.
James Cameron, the situation.
Yes. Exactly. So that's what I'm excited for. But it was a great presentation. Anybody out there who's not watched the Unreal presentation, go watch it. Again, even if you're not into the dev side of things, like 3-bit said, just take it from somebody who's not in the dev side of things. Me, basic knowledge here, but I even enjoyed myself watching it. They showed off a ton of stuff that was just so dang cool. And I again, just gets you hyped for the industry. So go check it out. Go watch it. It was well worth your time. 3-bit, are you on a time limit, sir?
I'm not.
Okay, cool. Just wanted to make it sure. I didn't need to get you out of here as Mav and I continue because we've got one more topic that I know Mav wanted to jump into that I did. I did not have a chance to reread this article today. I went through it pretty quick at work and then I was going to, but then other things popped up. But Mav pulled us some stuff out of there too and put in the DMs that I had caught when I first read it. I don't know if you read it 3-bit, but it's the IGN had an interview with former PlayStation boss Jack Tretton. Everybody, a lot of people in the industry will know Jack or remember Jack from back in the day. He was one of the original leads at Sony at PlayStation when they developed PlayStation 1, and then he came back. From 2006 through 2014. He was president and CEO at that time. Guy had his detractors, but he also had a lot of people who loved him. He was more Jim Ryan than he was Phil, but he was a nice blend at the same time. He was not like the Jim Ryan spokesperson that you don't really want to see talking about gaming. Jack understood it, but he was still a business guy, but he understood games a little bit better. So I still liked them back in the day, for sure, when PlayStation 1 was around, for sure. I mean, again, he was a face that I saw all the time, and he was really good at what he did. But anyways, IGN did a nice interview with him, and some really cool information came out of here. Some good thoughts from Jack. A lot of it coming back to some of the stuff that Mav and I have discussed here and on other shows. And I want to read a couple different things here. I'm not going to read the entire article because, well, it's actually not too lengthy, but it's there. So let me get this. So again, this is by Rebecca Valentine from IGN, and that was posted today, April the 7th. And let's get into this. Speaking to IGN, Trenton says that during his time at Sony and since, he's seen a gradual shift that has allowed small studios to be less reliant on large publishers to get their games into the world. And I should preface this, I should pause this. I should have brought up the reason why Jack Trenton is back in to the kind of scene here is he has come out and stated that he is looking to make acquisitions. What he has done is he's got a group of people together, SPACs. He's got an SPAC, which is basically an investment group. They invest in studios, they acquire studios, but they don't take any real leadership roles in those studios. They're basically the money people at the end of the day. So they kind of, because again, he talks about it in this article, a lot of smaller studios don't want to get acquired because they don't want to lose creative control. We've heard that so many times about what Xbox does with their studios, with all these acquisitions, but he's trying to come back in. He's developed this whole thing, and he's saying, look, we're not like that at all. We are coming here to help you get off the ground. Love this industry, but I'm coming back in to make some acquisitions. I want to get some teams together. I want to get some devs. We're going to let you have complete freedom as far as creativity goes. We're not here to take over your company. So that's why he's kind of back in the news here. So back to his quote, thanks to online stores, anybody can be a publisher, Trenton said. So the good news is the barrier to entry is dropped significantly. It's still very costly to build a game, but a fraction of what it was back in the days when you had to do a AAA, $100 million project to see the light of day on the shelves. But that doesn't mean it's easy to release such a game. He says that as indies look for more sources of funding, he sees increasing interest in mergers and acquisitions, but indies are reluctant, he says, because they don't want to lose their independence, and going public themselves to earn money from investors is an expensive, complex proposition. How then can an indie raise money from investors while remaining independent, small, and secure? Enter Trenton and his new company, Power Up. Power Up is an SPAC, a special purpose acquisition company. As Trenton explains concisely, SPACs are companies that exist for the sole purpose of acquiring or merging with existing private company and taking it public as a combined entity. It is an easy route for smaller companies to become publicly traded while simultaneously getting extra financial backing and potentially an experienced group of industry professionals at their back who can offer advice, support, and direction. In the case of Power Up, Trenton says that also means letting the studio stay independent and remaining a minority owner. Again, kind of what I just explained there. He goes on to say later in the article, let me take a look here. I'm just going to scroll down. He talks about, let's see here. Oh, where was that part, Mav? God damn, I missed it. You got that quote up that you put in the chat?
Yes. I tweeted it, so I'll just go look at my
yeah.
I'll look at my twits.
Oh, here we go. I think I got it. Yeah, here we go. Okay, so one of the other quotes I wanted to pull out, I did find it, is about they went on to ask him, so what's behind the surge in the games industry acquisitions lately? Trenton's theory is that the boom is tied to the sheer number of gaming companies compared to 15 or 20 years ago, combined with the skyrocketing figures that the biggest gaming companies are raking in each year. There is simply more to be acquired and more money to do it with. And he adds, that's a good thing. Quote, you've got some strategic mergers and acquisitions that I think are good for the industry, because if an Activision becomes part of Microsoft, or a Zynga becomes part of Take-Two, that creates room for a new Zynga or a new Activision to pop up. And maybe somebody who is a fraction of the size of an Activision or Zynga becomes the next Activision or Zynga. And those guys are going to pull up smaller companies with them, Trenton says. So I think it's a sign of growth in the industry and a sign of the value of the industry, and it's all positives. They go on to say, I'm going to get back to you on that. I'm going to let you go first on this one, Matt, because I know you got a lot to say because we talked about this extensively, bro. But what about all the drawbacks? Will big companies taking over smaller ones stifle creativity at the companies being acquired? What about platform exclusivity for popular cross-platform franchises? Trenton is confident that broadly speaking, these won't be issues, or at least not significant ones. Quote, I think the relationship between the two companies is obviously much closer once you've acquired that company, he says. And hopefully, Microsoft becomes a bigger priority for Activision than it was before they got acquired by Microsoft. But ultimately, they've been bought to drive their own profitability and grow their own business to benefit Microsoft and to benefit the overall industry in that way. So I don't think you're going to see titles become platform exclusive. I don't think it would make financial sense for them to take Call of Duty and make it exclusive to Xbox platforms. And they certainly haven't behaved that way in the past. And I think that's true of all other mergers and acquisitions that you'll see. That I think you'll continue to see multi-platform development. It'll just be done under the wing of an acquiring company. But they're looking for that company's business and profitability to be maximized. And the way to maximize that profitability is to do a multi-platform footprint. So Max, turn this over to you first, brother. Again, had the Sean Layden's come out and say, this is bad. It's not the way to do things. We have Jim Ryan out here talking about all this stuff as well. We've had industry pundits writing articles about how acquisitions are absolutely horrible. We've had people in this community nonstop talking about the collapse of the industry, that Microsoft is this evil, no good company for doing all these big giant mergers and acquisitions and all this kind of stuff. And it's been our position, Mav, much like Trenton, that in actuality, this shows the health of the industry and this is good for the industry in many ways. So take it away, Mav. What are your thoughts on what somebody who does know this industry, as well as some other people who have spoken out previously in a different opinion? Jack Trenton definitely knows this industry. Been around for a long time, done a lot of great things like bringing PlayStation 1 actually to market. So what do you think, Mav?
Yeah, I mean, I was really like interested reading this because of his history with PlayStation, and also seeing a former executive that is very well respected in the gaming industry and also just in corporate industry, whatever, actually come out and talk about this stuff. Obviously, you know, maybe he has some of his self-interest in here as well with his company that he's forming up, trying to, you know, maybe start some interest in things. That's one of the purposes of
it's business
interview.
You mean it's business, Mav? Weird.
Yes, 100%. But a lot of what he says is spot on to what, you know, we've been saying. And it's a sign, if the industry was not doing well, you wouldn't be seeing this, right? Like when it's doing well, that investment is up because bigger companies want a piece of that pie, right? They see the growth, they see the money that it's making, and it's like, okay, we need to be a part of this. We need to be on the ground floor of this. We need to invest in this. Even so much as to drive somebody like Jack Trenton back into it and form a company for the sole purpose of getting back into this, right? It is very healthy, and you know, I've had a lot of debates about what, you know, at different aspects of this with the different business models and everything taking place within the industry, and some people say some things are not good for it because, you know, it's bad for the devs. Devs don't get paid and all this stuff. Meanwhile, you see all these devs getting paid out the ass by getting acquired by huge corporations, right? Like, it's just, it doesn't add up, you know what I mean, to being a negative. And as he says, it's all, for right now, it's all positive. You know, it could shift and change, you know. Let's say that there's a crash in the gaming industry 15 years from now, and, you know, only in a lot of the devs that have been moving around are all under the biggest corporate entities, and they all like shed weight. You know, that's a possibility. It's happened before. But just because something is possible doesn't mean it's going to happen. Right. And in fact, if you look at the way all the evidence of what's in front of our eyes now, it's actually the exact opposite. Because not only is it going along with the acquisitions, right? There's a huge thing, but there's also more big startups than we've ever seen before. And the fact that you have all these acquisitions does not mean there's an absence of new companies and new things. That's my biggest takeaway from what he was saying, is that people ignore the fact of there's so much talent out there and so many people starting their own companies now, that the industry is healthier for that than it's ever been before as well. So when you acquire a company like Activision Blizzard, or you acquire a company like Bungie, or you acquire a company like potentially like Crystal Dynamics, or any of these other companies, it's not taking away from the wealth of options that people are going to have out there. That's what the future of gaming is. It's options, and it's becoming easier for examples of, like we talked about extensively on this show tonight, Unreal Engine 5 and all these other applications out there, these engines that are out there about making game development easier, about making it easier for people to get games out there on store shelves or also into digital storefronts, which is also the future of gaming. The digital storefront is the future, right? That is, physical gaming is becoming less and less and less a prominent aspect of the gaming space as most purchases growing into the digital space. And that's going to only increase. That's only going to increase. And as that increases, it becomes more options. It becomes more options of where you play, how you play, where you access. That also drives up the market. Because there's so many more options and so many more ways for people to access the content, guess what? It leads to more players. And as you have more players, that means more money. That means more money goes into the industry, which means more growth, which means more acquisitions and more startup companies. It's the snowball effect that we're taking into gaming right now. This is why it is the golden age of gaming, because all of this also feeds, like we said, new projects, because you have more companies, more startups, more acquisitions. Strong companies get stronger. New companies get invested in. They grow. New offices, new tech. Everything is like just on the up and up. And you can all get it for a low price of $14.99, per month. Now, it's insane to think about whether
lower microtransactions, but
Yeah, no, and to your point, Mav, too, General Spartan says in the chat, Microsoft acquiring studios and bringing back old IP and new IP helps. Why? Because Sony will be forced to get creative once again. It's good for the industry and for gaming. That's another part of this, and we've already seen it. Guess what Sony's doing right now? Acquiring studios, acquiring talent to go make IPs that they don't currently have in their portfolio. Why? Because they got complacent. They found something that they were excellent at making, which was a third-person, over-the-shoulder, narrative-driven game. It brought them to new heights. They dominated last gen, also due in part to Microsoft missteps and mistakes, but they put themselves into a corner. And now that Microsoft is fully in the game, and I say Microsoft again, I've done it forever, but now I can say it and be right, because Phil is now the CEO of Microsoft Gaming. Now that the Microsoft is fully invested and they're going out and doing all these acquisitions, and they have this Game Pass and they have this diversity of games, Sony has to go do something different than they've been doing. They know, Jim knows for a fact he cannot dominate like he did last gen. He knows for a fact that if they want to get a service that's any semblance of Game Pass at some point, they're going to need diverse games coming from first party or second party studios that they've helped start up. One of them that they just purchased outright, which was Haven, but they've got a couple other ones that they've helped start up. They're going to need to go get more talent to make different styles of games than they have for the past basically whole generation. They can let other IPs die off that they had created, like the Killzones of the world, because they didn't need them. They were dominating. They didn't need them. They put their studios into doing what they do best. And they've got a formula. It works. That's great. But it's not going to work in the future the same way with Microsoft now in the game. So it's perfect point to your Mav of what you're talking about there with Game Pass.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, and Sony's going to eventually get in the mix. I had expected them to, I didn't expect them to go 1-for-1. Right. But I did expect them to take a little bit bigger step in the value proposition they were going to be offering, right? To be more competitive in that space, because ultimately, from my opinion, to grow the service, to make it worthwhile to really put out there, as an example of where they're going in the future, it needs to add more value to gain subscribers, right? And I don't foresee them gaining a lot of subscribers with the streaming tiers that they had offered, and that was kind of made me like shake my head, like what are they doing really right now? Like because like I think Ryan is he's being pulled, right? There's where I think he knows what he needs to do and what others around him think he knows what he needs to do. And then you have the other world is like, no, the old way is the way that works. We're not going to do anything else. And so they've come up with something that's like in between, but not. It's just for the sake of, right? And I don't think it's going to really make an impact in the way that I wanted as a consumer. Like hoping they would have more of a value proposition. Now, that being said, is Sony going to be fine? And are they is Sony all part of this conversation? Absolutely, because you know they're just acquired Bungie. They just announced they have all these live service games coming out. So they're going to be fine. They have such a huge fan base. They have the number one name in console gaming, right? Yeah, whether anybody wants to admit that or not, like if you're a huge Xbox fan or whatever, PlayStation name is the number one game in console gaming right now for consoles, because guess what? Nintendo doesn't have a console anymore. Nintendo's a handheld device, right? So no matter what you want to say about that, Nintendo is for the people that want to take their device around everywhere with them right now, and PlayStation is the number one name for a TV attached device to access your games, right? And Xbox is number one by far in services and subscription models in gaming right now. There's not even a close second, right? There's like pretty much the only horse in the race at this point, because you say that they got 30 million subscribers almost, and then compared to who? What, like PlayStation now with 3? You know, like that's like a 90% difference there. You know what I mean? Like that's not even in the same ballpark. So Xbox is running that show, and that's why they're like kind of at the forefront of where this future is going, because options for me, people say, "Oh, Game Pass isn't the future again," or whatever. Okay, that's fine. Options are, right? Mm-hmm. Because regardless of anything else, options is the future of digital content and media, because it's already transformed a couple of industries. It's transforming gaming as we speak, because technology has caught up to gaming, right? And gaming is pushing forward with that. So technology is always going to dictate what the future holds for us with the way we can access our content. And as technology pushes forward, we're going to have more options to places to access our content. The experiences that we're going to get with the cloud are going to be even better. The internet solutions we have at home and also mobile are going to be even better in the future. So that tech is just going to improve. As that technology improves, why would you not take advantage of it to access what I know you and Steel always talk about this, the 3 billion gamers that are out there in the world. Now, PlayStation wants to be a part of that too, but they're so far behind right now in that way, So I think that all of this like talk, is just about the health of where it's going, and Xbox is really pushing that forward. And that's why you see them also like really present at like this Unreal stuff, and with making the end decision on the Series X consoles to the RDNA 2, and then also you have the cloud thing. They're pushing that forward, and they have Azure. They're really pushing that. They're kind of in competition with AWS, in my opinion, for like the future of like media and how we're going to access our content. And it's all of this is funded by the growth of the industry and our, as consumers, us being access to that content. So
correct.
It's
circle of life.
It's not just because Microsoft has big bucks and they feel like just buying whatever, right? Yep. It's because more people are accessing this stuff and spending more money on it than ever. And that's why you've had record profits across the board from numerous publishers. That's why I've been against the $70 game model, because I don't think it's necessary.
Well, and Trenton brought it up, right, Mav? That was the other piece where he said that they're making more money than they ever have before in the history of gaming, right?
Yeah.
And he talked about that's where the industry is at. That's how healthy the industry is at. And that's always been your point, Mav. Jim Ryan, comes out and says, well, we need it because we've got 100 to $200 million budgets. No,
not really.
Not really. Not really. Yeah. You don't really need that. And again, that what Trenton's saying there is like spot on. They're making more than they ever have before. period.
Yeah.
They may be spending more, but they're making X amount more on top of it.
And that's always people's argument against it. Well, games cost way more to make than they ever had before. You know, everything else has gone up, and that's kind of bullshit too. Like media in itself has not gone up in price over the course of history. Media, in fact, movies and music has actually gone down a lot. You know, VHS tapes back in like the early 90s and stuff were like 30, 40 bucks at times. You know, like, and also the market's gone up. Right, you usually see an increase that's like for a short period of time, like for a few years, when there's a new form of media come out, because the physical aspect of that is more costly.
Yeah,
right?
We see it in 4K, right? We see it in 4Ks right now. Like, there's some 4Ks that come out at $40, right? Well, the reason why is because they don't produce near as much physical anymore like they used to. Why?
They're not
because everybody's consuming digitally. Yes, exactly.
And you can buy most of your digital content at $20, $24.99 for 4K or whatever. And if you compare that to what it was like 20 years ago, it's like pretty much the same price for a brand new DVD or whatever. You know, it hasn't really gone up. Now you see the bargain bin shit. It's all still there. You know, it's all still there for everything. Physical media with entertainment has not really gone up. And CDs are still cheap too. Like, I don't really understand that argument when people say that. So then you got to look at, okay, what has gone up? Profits, players, you know, the user base, microtransactions, all of these other things that are funding.
And that's where Sony's lacking. That's what Jim's talking about. That's where Sony's lacking, because they don't put microtransactions in their games.
Which is why I have made excuses for Sony before, because God of War, a game like that, I can say, okay, well, if you want to tell me that you need $70 for that, I understand, because you're not trying to sell me a storefront. But, you know, the Activisions, the 2Ks, you know, Take-Two or whatever, Battlefields, all these other games that are $70, and it's just pretty much on an access to an online storefront. You know, they don't need to be $70. They're making all of their money not from the game sales. They may say, let's say they sell like 15 to 20 million copies, right? So let's say 20 million, just to be fair. Okay, 20 million. You got $10 extra. That's $200 million. But their profits are like in the billions from the microtransactions, right? Do they need that $200 million? No, they don't.
Call it a next gen tax or whatever, but it doesn't make sense, because you increase the price to $70, right? But then you're like, okay, what are you actually charging $70 for? And then they'll say like it's a next gen tax, right? And then you go on PC and it's actually, or haptic, you go on PC and it's actually lower.
And for the same thing, like, and it's more features. And it's more features. More features.
A 3080 computer, a person who owns a 3080 graphics card doesn't pay more for their copy.
Right. And you can also use probably like 50 different like accessories on your PC that you maybe not even be able to use on console, right? Like that you can plug in and access to your game. That like, and also you have like better graphics, better
settings and stuff,
more settings and all these different things, and they have to optimize it for like 50 million different graphics cards and all this shit, right? And the whole concept of this is necessary is just complete BS. I'm not saying they can't charge it. You know, I'm willing.
It's a business decision. Yeah, I'm always
So you know, the thing with me is not it's not about that they need to. It's just that they can, right?
Yeah, right.
And that's when I'm not like saying attacking it like to the masses, saying like, oh, every company is horrible. But I can't stand the defense of people saying that they need to.
They don't need to.
And then they go and attack a company for giving us more and a better value. It's so half-assed backwards sometimes, the way like people think and try and quantify their purchases and their quality, you know, that they perceive as their, you know, it's better quality because I paid more money for it. And I'm telling you that because it's what that they told me to say. You know, like it doesn't that mindset.
People think that way, Mab, though, and other industries.
It's like, true.
In clothing, like there'll be a white t-shirt and it's like, you know, you could get that same t-shirt from over here. Maybe it's even the same manufacturer who makes that white t-shirt, and they'll be like, but no, this costs more, so it must be worth
better
more
quality.
You know, but either way, it's the same, and sometimes the cheaper is even better. But the way people quantify value is very different. According to like the branding is so important. That's why branding is so important. Like you could have things that are worth less, but they charge more, but because people see the brand as worth more in their eyes, they will pay more.
Correct.
And that then they'll put that on other people. They were like, you should buy this because I love this brand. This brand has quality. Therefore, if you try to get it from a lesser brand, it's worth less. It's so weird people's thinking about that. But yeah, I mean, you hit it on the money with a lot of your points, I think, where with that whole mindset of like, oh, I'm gonna buy $70 because it's better for some reason, or I'm supporting the devs and all this different stuff. A lot of money doesn't even go to the devs, by the way. You buy a $70 game, that's not going to the devs. Just saying. I see that argument all the time when people are like, I'm supporting the devs. Unless it's an indie developer, for the most part, if you're buying like a AAA game, the money isn't really going to the devs. It's going to the studio. So
hey, 3-Bit, talk about it a little bit, because bring it back to kind of Trenton's conversation too in his interview, because you've been on the inside of the circle of life within the industry, like as a contracted dev, right? As somebody who goes in because there's so much work being done and the industry is exploding everywhere. You are hired in to help out the main devs or whatever the case may be on some of their projects, but you've been on the inside from that standpoint. And you've also been in there and you've been able to see how many projects are actually being worked on in some of these companies, stuff that we don't even know about yet, but you've kind of seen this explosion because you kind of came in this industry, with your age, you kind of moved right into it right during this golden age kind of blossoming as it appears. But just talk about that. I mean, Jack Trenton's comments as far as how this industry is growing, how mergers and acquisitions doesn't really do the damage that some people like to think it does for their own reasons. But just talk about that a little bit. You see that, right? You see it clearly from just the work you've been doing as well, right?
Yeah, I could totally see Jack's point about how acquisitions are good for the industry. I think a lot of people see it in the way where they see it in the fanboy way, where you acquire someone, that means you're taking away from this, and that means I won't get this. But hey, it becomes a competition sort of. But I think how if you look at interviews with Phil and see what their language is and how they are approaching these acquisitions, I think overall what it does is it promotes a healthier industry for the games. The gaming industry is one of the most successful industries right now, more so than movies, more so than any other medium, right?
Number one.
I do think it is interesting that Jack Trenton, like acquisitions in I do think it's interesting that he was mentioning how acquisitions is the point where it is successful, because there are programs in companies like Square Enix, for example. They have a program for developers where they will you basically pitch the game to them. Right. Pitch whatever game you're working on, and they will help fund it sometimes, but they don't have to acquire you. So that also exists.
Like ID at Xbox, right?
Like ID at Xbox. Like you pitch the game.
EA's got one as well. Yeah, EA's got one as well. Yep.
So they have different programs like that on top of the acquisitions, that is just overall helping the industry thrive. So you don't always have to just acquire a company at the same time. You can make deals with them. With Xbox is doing, PlayStation is doing with Square Enix. That is also a thing. But yeah, overall, I think it's just good for the industry. It's just it puts more money into projects. It encourages other studios, these big companies, like, hey, let's look at these more unique games, because sometimes games might get stale, right? You can see the same games over and over. So
correct.
A company might look towards indie developers. What are you guys working on over here? How can we bring that into our portfolio? And what does that do? It encourages the indie developers to continue working on whatever they want to work on. And it also makes it so a lot more eyes are being brought to these games as well. So
yeah, exactly. And I think it's another big takeaway from Jack in this article. And it was just very interesting to read his, again, somebody who's been around for a long time. Because again, me as an older gamer, right? I've seen the bad times in gaming. I've seen the times when studios are being shut down constantly, right? Devs are out of work. I've seen the times, you know, just all of that happens when things go low. Like I almost, you know, I was young, but I almost went through the death of video games, you know, with Atari and stuff. And I've seen each and every kind of moment that's happened through all of this. And when the times are low, there's not mergers and acquisitions. Sometimes there's mergers and acquisitions when times are low due to necessity, just to survive, right? That's what they'll do. They'll partner up just to survive.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, you're seeing people just be devastated, their lives, their livelihood, their families being uprooted, all that kind of stuff. This is completely different. Like this is a utopia, right? There's not enough talent to go around. We've got studios out there. If your reputation, we've seen this with Activision, Blizzard, so many other studios, if you get any type of tarnish on your reputation, people won't come work for you because there's 100 other dev teams looking for talent right now. And you know, you can go get a job, and you can go get a job almost anywhere in the world now. You can do it from now. Remote has opened up due to the pandemic. That's caused all these companies to look at how they develop games differently. You've got Xbox pushing the cloud development now as well. You've got all this stuff happening. This is a healthy industry, and that's what Trenton's talking about here. What we're seeing right now, these mergers and acquisitions, is not scary. It's not doomsday. Like Mav said, 15 years from now, could we see a collapse? Of course we could. Of course, a million different things could happen. That's always one possibility. But for the people that solely focus on the doomsday scenarios, it is more likely that another path is going to be the one that we go down when it comes to this industry, because this industry is so big, so strong right now. Not saying that it's, you know, it can't die off, but what I'm saying is it's so big, it's so healthy, so strong that eventually it's going to keep adapting, which is what we're seeing right now with how Hollywood, TVs, movies have looked to gaming all of a sudden and said, okay, we're out of ideas. Where are we going to get ideas from? Nobody's bringing original ideas. We don't want to take risks. Where can we go? Oh, look at this. The gaming industry is exploding. We can take these different titles and turn them into big screen or small screen productions, and we already have a fan base. People are going to flock to them. That's adaptation.
To add to that,
yeah,
I haven't seen this, like I would say 5 years ago. I'm starting to see games be announced, and then right under the announcement they'll put a job posting.
Yep.
You know,
exactly.
Like, I believe they did that with Tomb Raider, if I'm not mistaken.
That's one of the reasons
Blizzard's
why they're
new
announcing
game.
all those things. Yeah, the survival.
Blizzard's
game.
new game. Look at Bethesda. Even Bethesda of all companies, like, look, who wouldn't want to go work for Bethesda? They did a whole advertising commercial, right? They made a whole advertising commercial last year at E3 to advertise they were hiring, right? That's crazy, right? That's just goes to show exactly where this industry is. And I think we're down the right path, and Trenton is spot on with all his comments here. Again, it's easy to say because I agree with what he's saying, but it's kind of nice because we've heard a lot of the opposite side come from a lot of, you know, people who are informed. Again, very intelligent people who've been in this industry for a long time. You know, we've heard the circus and the clowns do their thing too, but whatever, that's always there. That's the nonsense. But some big people have come out again and spoken about this. But it's always nice as somebody who's not in the industry, somebody who just is an armchair industry lover, an armchair CEO who sits back and just speculates on this stuff all day long and has opinions, to see that this is kind of reflected in other people, that other people see the same things that we're seeing when we do these podcasts, is always great. And especially coming from somebody like a Jack Trenton with all this experience underneath him, that not everybody is doom and gloom. Not everybody sees this as a destiny that the industry is doomed to fail at some point because of what's happening right now, that these things are actually good. So it was a great article to bring up again. When I read through it fast at work, I was like, damn, he's making some good points here. I like this. So I'm glad you decided to include it tonight there, Mav. Anybody got anything else they want to talk about? It that, man, this 2.5 hours is just flowing by.
Yeah,
man.
it's been
Holy
fast,
cow,
dude.
yeah. It's great. Anybody else got anything? 3-bit, you want to bring up anything, brother, while you're on?
Yeah, I'll just say, like, I think one thing with the gaming community is to always try to put human faces to some of these developers. I'll just say that because it is very easy to consume things sometimes and just put not really think about the people making them. And I'm guilty of that sometimes. Sometimes I look at a game like, you suck, and I'm guilty of it too. But sometimes just think about the developers actually making them, because I've been in the meeting sometimes and I felt sometimes I would feel bad because I would be like dissing a game, and then I would be in the meetings with some of the people who are very passionate about said game. I'm like, wow, yeah, sometimes you have to take a step back and realize that not that you can't like something. I don't think I want to put that message out there. You could hate a game. You'd be like, this game, I hate it, blah, blah, blah. But sometimes it just take a step back, think that there are human faces to a lot of these products.
I will do so to every game except for X Defiant. Screw those guys.
Except X Defiant.
It's a good message too, but for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
Except, really except X Defiant.
Yeah. No, that's a great way to end this too. And I will say we didn't touch on it tonight, but Activision Blizzard, there's been some things that have happened there as well.
Yeah.
They have decided to move their QA testers to permanent roles, paying them a minimum of $20 per hour. Obviously, that's in response to the unionization effort. You can have your opinions on both sides on that one as well, but there is movement, which is good for the human beings that are there. Is it right for everybody? No, I'm sure there's still some people who don't like what they're doing, and that's fine. But I would definitely also take a look at that. And then for anybody else who is interested in the Activision Blizzard stuff and what it's been talked about for the past couple of weeks with the senators coming out, a group of senators coming out, and all that stuff going on, go check out Hogue Law. And he put another great video today. I've got to finish up listening to it. But again, dude's a mergers and acquisitions attorney. He's in this community. He understands it from the ground level up on how this stuff works. And he did a great job so far from what I've listened to, kind of breaking down where everything is at, where concerns do need to be, where other things don't make any sense and they're probably not going to come to play. But he really breaks down what this FTC is looking at, even though technically, according to the letter of the law, they're not supposed to be looking at, but they're doing it anyways, because again, this comes down to political stuff. And that's exactly the side I was on when I first said that Call of Duty would be probably, again, if I had to bet at the time, I was saying, they'll probably make it exclusive at some point. But I said, do not be surprised if it does go multi-plat, due to the fact that this FTC and this administration has different ideas about what the law should cover when it comes to mergers and acquisitions. So go check out that video. Awesome video on that. Mav, you got anything else?
I'm afraid to say anything about this topic.
Which one?
the whole Activision Blizzard thing. You know?
Yeah. No, you don't have to be. I mean, again,
no, I mean, we're on the same page. You know,
yeah, we're on the same page. Yeah, exactly.
I'm just gonna. I'll say that there's again. I said this before, but there's been some interesting characters that have shown themselves afoot on the online spaces and stuff, with some very strange. Now, I'm not gonna say strange opinions, but like strange reactions to other people's opinions, regarding Xbox and Microsoft, and it kind of makes you think, about the community and people. A lot of people that we think you kind of understand them, or you think what their interests are, and you think you're like, okay, they're cool, all this stuff, and then you kind of start to see this like consistent side of disrespect towards people that have differing opinions and stuff like that. And I'm cool. I'll just say I'm cool with differing opinions. I'm cool with like having discussions. I'm cool with having debates. But when you make posts that are meant for engagement and then you go and you just insult everybody that comments on it, because their opinion is different than yours, shows really bad taste and character. And I've seen that come out from specific individuals since this whole Activision Blizzard stuff started. And, I don't like when my friends get insulted. I don't like being insulted. And, like, I usually try and stay out of those things, but sometimes it's enough is enough, and you know, there shouldn't be a place for that in gaming. It shouldn't be normalized, right? Like we should not normalize treating each other with disrespect in the name of like an opinion because of a gaming console or like because of a company being acquired or anything like that. Like people can be friends and be all chummy, and something like this happens, it's like all of a sudden you think you can like go out there and just treat people like shit and call them idiots and stuff because their opinion is different than yours. That just shows a lack of character, and just like you don't care about other people and their, you know, that fact that they have feelings or opinions and or anything like that. Like don't put yourself above others. You know, it's, you know, if you're not like a criminal or, you know, doing something like really fucked up or horrible or, you know, doing the same shit to other people that some of these people are doing, you know, like don't put yourself above other people. You know, everybody's equal. Everybody has different opinions. Everybody should be deserved to be treated with respect. And that goes for like what 3-Bit saying to the devs. You know, they get treated like shit a lot of times, you know?
Yep.
But, you know, like it's social gaming and community, you know, is meant for, it's freaking talking about video games, you know? Freaking, we go deep dive into some serious topics with this because we're passionate. We care about it. You know what I mean?
Right.
We love it. We love the industry. We love gaming, right? It's all positive stuff. And if a game's like comes out and it sucks, we're like, oh, that sucked. Or, you know, if like somebody's doing something that's bad for the consumer, or we call it out. But then, you know, when we like, hey, when we call out something, sometimes people will attack you, you know?
Yeah, and it's fine to have I think people mix it up. Like it's fine to have your preference for something. Like if you are like, I prefer Xbox, right?
Yes.
I prefer that. But and a lot of my views would be like, okay, they're Xbox based. And I very much make sure I mention that with a lot of my posts as much as I can. But at the same time, I'm not going to be disrespectful to another person like, oh, you like Nintendo, you are trash, you are a terrible person, yada yada yada. Like there's a difference. Like
you must have a low IQ because you like this or because you have a differing opinion.
Yeah, like that to me is really stupid. That's really dumb to attack someone for what they like, you know. So I don't know.
100%. That's where we're at in society in a lot of ways, unfortunately, right now. But I agree with you guys wholeheartedly. And don't. Again, a lot of snakes out there. Unfortunately, a lot of people like to hide behind certain facades and put on certain masks, and underneath they are who they are. And I think that's what Mav's talking about. Sometimes you realize who you thought somebody was isn't.
Yeah, you like to try and give people the benefit of the doubt. You know, you can be warned about somebody. Yeah, have been many times, and you're like, you know, as a person, I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. Yep. You know, and then you kind of start to see at times
they show themselves eventually. That's why we talk about all the time on Living Split Screen and Steel too. Like we are who we are. Like this is not an act. You know, we come with the energy and all that kind of stuff, and you can't fake it for very long. People see through it eventually, especially those that may be on the lookout for that stuff will see through it eventually. There will be plenty of people who are duped into believing that you are that person, but eventually it's going to come out. Because again, lies never stay hidden for long. And Joe Jobs 35, yes, sir. He said, I agree with there is faces behind the game, and I believe not to be toxic with your opinions and criticism. But when the game is not delivering and the focus is not there, they should be told, but in a constructive criticism way. You are absolutely 100%. That's what we talk about, Joe Dubs, all the time, is that line that there is. And if you are a human being, and I think we've lost a ton of that as society with social media because it's too easy to cross the line because you're anonymous. And I think that that's what's been lost. There is a way to constructively criticize somebody, but then far too many people cross the line and think that's okay. And that's where you have to stop yourself, take a deep breath and back away. And like Mav said, like 3-Bit point, this is video games we're talking about. Right? There's a lot of other things you can have deep-seated arguments over, that you can have a ton of emotion over, that affects real life. There's a ton of that out there, right? That you can go find. But this is video games, people. This is a hobby. This is entertainment.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, a lot of that's bled into entertainment. You see it in movies, you see it in TV, you see all of that, right? And again, like Matt said, done it myself. There's certain people out there who've done things to certain franchises that I don't like, that I've said personal things about in DMs, but I don't do it. I don't do it in public. I don't go on podcasts and speak out on people's names like that. But even in private, I have done it before because I do have a deep-seated kind of passion for it. But at the same time, you got to know when you're crossing that line.
Yeah, I think
because
we all
human
do
beings
it
are on the other side. Yeah,
But at the end of the day, you're be as constructive as you can, like, because you're thinking, like, when you are saying these things about like games or people, or like, being constructive is the best way to form it, because you're like, okay, when I'm saying these things, how is this being helpful, like, towards this product? Like, if I want to make this game actually better, and I'm just saying, oh, it sucks, what does that do for the developers? Like, if you are trying to reach the developers and try to make something change, just saying it sucks is not going to do anything.
Nope.
Like, at the end of the day, if you want to make something better, or make someone else better, not even just video games, this goes outside of video games to people and other topics. Constructive criticism, it means making someone better, potentially better, right?
Have valid points. Have valid points. Not just a generalization. That does not help anybody.
So I can't just say Crossfire X that just as blatantly sucks ass anymore.
No.
Okay.
I mean, you can. I mean, again, free speech. Go ahead, but you got to have something to back that up. If somebody comes back and goes, "Well, why? Why do you think
I'll
that?"
say it's because it's just a really bad game.
No, then that's
like,
terrible.
In almost every way.
That's
okay. I'll make sure to be more productive with that statement.
Here's the thing. Again, we're all guilty. We're all guilty. Of
course, human beings. Of course,
we're human beings. But that's just a conversation you definitely have. If you want something to be better, if you don't really care about something, you're like, hey, this is not for me. This is terrible. But it is what it is.
Yeah, exactly. Next time I'll say, Mr. Developer, please, sir, please don't make it suck ass anymore.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
How about this? If you don't like something, guess what? And somebody is talking about it in a positive light, just keep scrolling. And you don't need to.
Oh my God.
You don't need to jump into somebody else. I know it's public space, and I know they put themselves out there. That's all 100% fact. I get that. Guess what? You think that something's not great, but somebody else is enjoying it, there is nothing that says you need to jump in there and try to bring that person down or try to state your opinion that you think it sucks. Scroll on by or make a simple post on your own Twitter page saying that you don't like it. If you need to get it out of your system, do that. But stop jumping into people's conversations when they're enjoying something. That's one thing that everybody can do. It's very simple to keep scrolling. Very simple. If you can't stand to see the positivity of something, mute. For God's sakes, just mute it. Get it off your timeline, get it off your feed, and just move on with your life. Don't try to bring other people's energy down. I hate that more than anything else in this community. I see it way too much. Way too much. Ah, man, great show. What
Next
a great
time
way
you
to
make
end
a Crusader Kings post, I'm going to come right on your parade.
Just come in and say it sucks. It's Game Pass
I'm
fodder.
gonna say, I couldn't get past the tutorials. Too long.
And I'll just say get good. Oh God. Anyways, no, awesome show, gentlemen. 3-bit. It was awesome to have you here. Fantastic, phenomenal thoughts as always. I knew you would bring it tonight, especially with the Unreal topic, but all the topics you did just awesome, man. I love it. Love having you back on a show. Love podcasting with you. You know that. I miss you, brother, a lot. And that's from the heart, not just in the podcasting world, but I just miss playing games with you, miss hearing you laugh because, man, I know you've been busy like we all have been. You got a lot going on in your life too. So that's what happens, but it's great to be here tonight. Appreciate you coming on, sir. Please tell everybody where they can find you and what you got going on and anything else you want to spread, man.
Sure. A pleasure being on this show. Mav and Pong, you guys have like this really good chemistry on this show. Like you guys are able to bounce back topics and it's like a casual conversation. Like you guys kill it absolutely with the show. I've been trying to tune in when I can. You guys can follow me on Twitter at i3bit. I work at this ad agency called Dagger, and so we do a bunch of different commercials. So if you just see an Affleck commercial and you see a duck in there, most likely I animated it for the most part. So just look out for those. I'll post some if I feel like I can, but for the most part, I don't really post a lot of my work just because I'm not always sure what I'm allowed to post. Like a lot of my Ubisoft stuff, I don't even post it, but a
Yeah, you
lot
don't
of
even
you
know
guys,
if you're allowed to say what you worked on now that the game's released, right? Like,
yeah, I have
like
no idea. Like some of the stuff in Rainbow Six Extraction I've worked on, but I'm like, am I allowed to say what I worked on? I don't even know. But just stay tuned on my profile. And again, it's been a pleasure being on the show with you guys. You guys in chat were killing it. And I'll see you guys later. Thanks.
Absolutely. Chat was absolutely incredible tonight. You guys are all great. If you haven't hit the like button, please do. Business side of things, I didn't do that during the show. Again, it helps. Unfortunately, the YouTube algorithm, it always helps spread the word about us. We got a great community we're building here, part of Fun Speculation's entire kingdom. But we really, Mav and I love what we do here on PM to PM. So please help spread the word. Hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't. We got a lot of great content on here. Mav does a lot of great things, and he's getting things in order with real life, and then he might get back to his normal routine here, or semi-normal routine here. But please do that for us. Love you all. Thank you all for being here tonight on episode 20 of PM in the PM. Mav, speaking of the kingdom, I got the king himself here. Please tell everybody, outside of just Fun Speculation, where can they find you? What do you got coming up for this weekend, including tomorrow night? And what else you got to say, man? Give some positive words to the people.
Heck yeah, man. I want to thank everybody for being here. And I want to shout out RWK88 for hitting us with a $2 super chat. Also, he says, enjoyed the show. Enjoyed you being here and everybody else in the chat, guys. You guys are amazing. One of the things I love most about our channel, Fun Speculation, is all the different podcasts we have. Is a lot of times I see like a different group of names like showing up for some of the different shows, right? So like I see a lot of different people like for like this show that I might see that tomorrow night, for Xbox Ultimate and stuff. So it's like it's awesome to like have like these different audiences, and also there's a lot of crossover there as well. But respect to everybody who shows up and hits the like button, shares it out, or just stops by just to watch a minute of us spew our bullshit to you guys. I appreciate it. But yeah, we're going to be streaming some more games this weekend, 100% for that. Looking forward to doing that. I don't know 100% what I'm going to be playing. But besides that, tomorrow night, like Pong said, Xbox Ultimate Podcast is going to be here. We're going to have a great old time. We got a large panel for that show. That's at 9 p.m. Eastern tomorrow night. So looking forward to it. Going to have some more talk. Maybe we'll talk more Activision Blizzard stuff. Maybe we'll see what all we dive into. Game Pass game announcements and stuff like that. And then also Wednesdays we have Fun Pop, where we talk movies, TV shows, games, and more. We'll see if 3-Bit's able to be there this week. I know
I'll be there next week.
He's been a little bit under the weather because of some incidences that this past week or so. But looking forward to have you back there, 3-Bit, along with Jasper and Psycho. Dive into some Halo TV show and Moon Knight. And my God, 3-Bit, if you haven't seen Moon Knight yet,
sick.
Oh God, oh, it's so good. And hey, FSP is our usual Saturday show. It's been kind of put on a little hiatus because Key's away right now. We're restructuring, kind of trying to find a new day and time for it, just because the current time wasn't really working for me with the new work schedules and stuff. So we're planning on moving that to Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern, or maybe 5 p.m. Eastern, no, 6 p.m. Eastern time. Yeah, Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern. So look for this coming Tuesday, Fun Speculation Podcast, to come back with Fuzzy, and Key may still be away, so we may have a guest fill in for him temporarily, but looking forward to having that back. And yeah, dude, you guys rock. Love you. Thank you everybody for the support for the channel, helping us grow and reach more people. And none of it is possible also without amazing co-host Pong Soul, who is, as he's called on one show, the Pong Harvey of podcasting.
Shout out to PTK Blam.
Yeah, shout out to PTK. He is the lower half of Living Split Screen.
Wow.
With Steel.
I don't know how to take that one. Jesus. Okay.
And shout out to Steel, and also all the other stuff you do. Me and Pong on Xbox Factor on Tuesdays when we can be. Love doing that with you as well. Love you, man.
Thanks, brother.
Where else can everybody find you, sir?
Yeah, what a great show. Again, thank you all for being here. Like Mav said, it is great to see the new faces and the regulars here. That means we are growing, no matter what, because new people are tuning in. Hope you all enjoyed it. And that's what we try to bring here each and every week on PM and the PM. So again, love coming here and talking about video games. Personal milestone this week, hit over 2,500 followers on Twitter. Thank you all for that as well.
I'm slacking.
Never in a million years would have thought when I jumped into this community that I'd be even saying anything close to that number. Look, I love this community. Real life is getting back to normal with the pandemic. Work is getting back to normal. So my schedule has been screwed up as well. It's kind of going to be that way again. I know a lot of people are feeling that kind of same pressure at this point. Like, hey, everything's kind of coming back around here. What I've been doing for the past 3 years isn't kind of going to fit the same way as it used to. So you won't see me as much as I used to be. I used to be in multiple chats during the day. I'm listening to people on podcasts. I still try to catch podcasts as I can, but I love you all. That's where I started out before I even started doing this kind of stuff. But with this going on and this podcasting business being one of the things that I love to do, other things do have to sacrifice. So you won't see me around as much, but I'm still here. And I still love and appreciate this community for everybody that I've met and everybody that I will meet in the future. Again, one of the best parts about what happened in the world is this right here, and the memories that I take and the people that I know now, including 3-Bit and Mav, my brothers from another. So again, I appreciate all of you. Thank you all for that. Caitlin, special shout out to you again, girl. I didn't do it in the beginning of the show, but shout out to you. Absolutely love the graphics tonight on the show, of course, with the Star Wars Legos. Man, again, that's just awesome. I love it. So thank you so much for what you do in the background and for your promotion. You've been tweeting it out beforehand because Mav is working. So I appreciate everything you do.
Awesome thumbnails.
Yeah, awesome thumbnails. Absolutely. Each and every week. So thank you for that. And congratulations on your success on TikTok as well. You are blowing up as you should. So I just want to give that special shout out to Caitlin. Otherwise, Pong Soul, Xbox, Twitter. Follow me. I'll follow you back for sure. Absolutely. You can find me tomorrow night, Xbox Ultimate, as Mav talked about, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 o'clock Central Time. I will be there. Not always at the beginning of the show, but I will be there for sure on Xbox Ultimate. Saturday mornings is the Living Split Screen. Living Split Screen. Split Screen is all one word with my brother from another, Steel Rain, where we get you up and alive in the morning, even if you don't want to be. We're going to bring that energy for you. 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 o'clock Central Time. 3+ hours. So buckle up. If you got to jump out and go do something, come back. We're probably still going to be on. That's the case. Last week it was 4.5 hours. Steel and I love to talk. Look, this is what we do. So join us. The Living Split Screen, or just Living Split Screen, I should say. Split Screen is all one word, please. And then Saturday nights, the Shop Podcast, PTK Blam's channel. It's a great way to end your Saturday night. PTK Blam, Fuzzy Belvedere, myself, and usually a guest. We have a great time Saturday night. So join us there, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 o'clock Central Time. I am still on panel on Xbox Factor Podcast. Unfortunately, with real life, real work, I'm going to be infrequently there from here on out, as far as I can see into the future. But that show is amazing. Everybody knows Mr. Boomstick. Everybody knows Double Barrel Gaming. Go watch it over there. Mav's there when he can be as well. Of course, Box and Burger's there almost every single week. You got VJ, you got Mr. Joy in the Dark, you got the man himself, Boom. Please join the Xbox Factor Podcast. All Good Things Green, Tuesdays, 12 p.m. Eastern, 11 o'clock Central Time. Thursday night, be back here again, 4 p.m. in the PM. God and real life willing, I will be here. But this is the golden age of gaming. I don't think you guys heard that enough. This show, it's the golden age of gaming. So please get out there, enjoy it. Do not let people steal your excitement or your hype. I don't care what it's for. Do not let it happen. Your energy is too important. Protect yourself. Don't let others get in there and mess things up. All right. Play what you love what you play. This has been PM in the PM, episode number 20, April the 7th, 2022. Love you all. Talk to you all real soon. Mav, get us out of here, brother.
Yo, and I'm sorry about sneezing. I thought I muted it. Guys. I muted the Zoom, but I didn't mute you guys. I'm sorry. It was loud. I know. Anyway, all right. Bye. Have a good one.
Bye.